universe? Am I in another universe where this happened and I just have the memories from it? Am I in frequency right now?
Welcome to SinCast, presented by Cinemasins.
All right, everybody, welcome to the SinCast. This is Chris Atkinson from Cinemasins, joined as always by the voice of Cinemasins, Jeremy Scott.
Hello!
And from Music Video Sins, Barrett Share.
Hey, everyone. And I was listening to the old, episode 15 that we were talking about last week.
Yeah.
And not only has the audio quality improved overall, but when you introduced us, you were like, here's Jeremy Scott. And Jeremy was like, hi. From Music Video Sins, Barrett Share. I was like, hey. What the fuck, man?
That's what happens when you're stuck in a closet.
Yeah, that was the episode. We were all in the closet.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Bleak.
But so it's been a while. We're going to talk a little bit about our movie theater days.
I want to tell you a story.
Let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat.
And leave your bullshit attitude and baggage at the door, because we don't need it.
Today, again, we've done this, 4 separate other times?
Yeah.
And yes, we probably are running out of stories, but I guess we got a few left.
Plus, I could start making some up if you want.
It'd be like Kramer.
I'm going to be borderline making stuff up today. I mean, really, quite honestly, the theme of the stories that I have today are, was I really there? Did that really happen? I'm not quite sure if it did.
Take it away, man.
So, all right. The first one that I think back fondly on and I sit here and go, did that actually happen? I'm going to say that I probably misheard what I heard this customer say, but I have struggled over the years, and it's been a good 20 years since this has happened, to figure out what I could have misheard in this whole thing. So this was 1998, and a movie called The Avengers came out, and it was not the Avengers we know today. This is the Ralph Fiennes, Uma Thurman, Sean Connery remake of a TV series that came out in 1998 and was a piece of shit.
It was awful.
It was terrible.
Oh, it's one of the worst movies ever. You do not want to watch this at all. You can't believe the level and talent involved.
Yeah.
Honestly, the story, if I recall, is that Sean Connery is playing this guy named something DeWinter or whatever who wants to control the weather.
Yes.
And that's the big evil scheme. It's kind of, your old school British spy type of shit.
Yeah.
So I think everybody knows what kind of movie they're getting into when you look at the poster for the Avengers and you see the trailers and all that. Although I think over time I figured out that people in general, there's a lot of people. There's a wing of the populace out there that they don't know. They don't see trailers. They don't see. They go to the theater and look at posters and say, "Oh, that's right up our alley," even though they don't really know what it's about.
Especially in 1998.
Yeah, especially in 1998. So, at Williamson Square, my old theater, we used to have lots of downtime, just sitting there, just talking forever for 2 hours, waiting for the next set of shows to show up, which is. I realized, boy, did I have it made back then. You go to Hollywood 27 and there's a show every fucking 15 minutes. It was like, what happened to all my downtime? So just sitting there talking and everything, and these people come out, and you always, if you're at a movie theater, and I guess any place where there's complaints or whatever, the complaint walk. You know that there's the people coming out of their theater, they have some shit to say.
Juiced up.
Yeah, and you're just like, oh, God damn it, what happened? And so they came out, this woman and her son came out and said that. And yes, I'm in the deep South, so I heard a lot of these complaints start like this. I'm a Christian. What the fuck? She definitely said that. The weird shit's it hasn't even come up yet. keep in mind, by the way, that I'm a fairly new to, even though I guess I'd been assistant manager for like 3 years or whatever, I think every complaint you sort of look that stone-faced, no matter what they say, so that you don't give off any bad impression or whatever. But she starts off saying, yeah, I'm a Christian, and she points to her son, and he's a wizard.
What the fuck?
This is before Harry Potter, so it can't even be that.
I sat there and nodded. Of course. Why wouldn't he be? They all
Go
are.
on.
They all are these days. Fucking 90s. But she went on to tell me that the reason why they wanted to get a refund was that they felt it was demonic that somebody could control the weather.
Oh my God.
And that this was, against Christian values and all that type of stuff. And I was like, okay, well, I mean,
Here's your $8.
yeah, here's your money back. We probably gave them refund passes. That's what you usually want to do. But they left. And I think I remember turning to the box office person who heard this conversation. And I said, I think I remember asking, did she say her son was a wizard? And I think he shrugged, but that's it. That's part of the thing in my mind that I'm like, I may have invented that. It may have not actually happened, right? Like I could have just heard that and said, "Oh yeah, wizard," and then and didn't ask the person if they confirmed it or not. Like, all I know is I didn't get true confirmation from anybody. And all I did for the next 20-something years is go, what could I have possibly misheard her say? There's not much. Like, everything that you could come up with in place of wizard is not good either. Like, Wiccan? Lizard? There's not really much that makes much sense, especially if you lead with "I'm a Christian." Like you're gonna live your household. I'm a Christian, but my kid, he gets to do other shit.
Yeah, totally.
He's a
doing spells
wizard.
and shit.
You know what? We're a very, very tight Christian household, but we let our kids decide what kind of bullshit that they're into.
The lead that was buried is that she really thinks it's demonic for the weather to be controlled.
Isn't that the weird thing, right? The story,
Regardless,
the
it's a fucked up
story,
story.
yeah, the story is that she said wizard, not that she thinks this is demonic in some way. Like that should be the fucking story, right? Well, that should totally be the fucking story.
Maybe she said he was a Willard.
Ooh,
Like that
maybe.
episode of Seinfeld.
Right. You mean of the Pennsylvania Willards. So yeah, man. Still to this day don't know. And yeah, I had quite a few of those. People were, I mean, most of the time though, it revolved around they went to a movie and they didn't think it was going to be so harsh or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I guess, and I remember people coming out of City Slickers 2 saying that it was just too rough. And I was like, yeah, but you brought a 6-year-old.
Yeah.
What are you doing? And sometimes people, like, we didn't really have a guide on what kind of trailers we put on our movies. There's a common sense sort of rule on a lot of those things, but sometimes people who didn't really follow that common sense of rule would put something stupid like a really like fucked up trailer on a kid's movie, and you're like, what are you doing? It doesn't make any sense.
Dark City.
Yeah. Well, somebody put like Surviving the Game on some kids movie, and like, even in the trailer, Ice-T is like something bitch. And like they come out and complain, it's kind of understandable.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Well, you always had some, at least in a big operation like Hollywood, there was always projectionists that were just lazier. And you can never really, you almost had to go behind them and make sure the trailer packs hadn't been, just mindlessly thrown together.
Yeah.
Make sure that nowadays, probably easier to avoid that kind of thing. I don't know.
Well, they now they do this. I mean, once like Carmike, I think they gave you these things for the trailers, but they never like made a big deal about what you put on. Like I used to put whatever I wanted on as long as it was appropriate.
Were they each individual reels? Or was there like a package that you built?
They're like this big. These trailers.
Yeah, little tiny mini reels.
Yeah, it had a little core in between them, and they look like mini records or mini bagels or something like that. Yes, but I used to always try to connect the trailers with the movie. So if it was sci-fi, I put a bunch of sci-fi stuff on there, and that probably got pretty close to what they wanted anyway on those things. But sometimes you see that once I got to Regal, where they actually said, "Here, you have to put these trailers on." And they had trailer checkers. They had people actually, their job was to come in and check trailers.
Oh yeah,
and make sure the right ones were on.
Like secret shoppers,
almost like Although they weren't very secret, they always had their little tablet and all that shit with them and everything. And every once in a while, they come up and talk to you and say, "I didn't see this one on there." And a lot of times, you just didn't have the trailer. But yeah, a lot of times, sometimes you would think that you would have the right thing. Like we had some complaint about a Harry Potter trailer being on Curious George, and it was almost the same kind of complaint there.
My son's a wizard.
My son's a wizard, and look, the Harry Potter series is bullshit for wizards, and but it was the same. No, it was the same sort of deal. Like they were Christians or whatever like that, and they, the whole magic thing was a big deal. It's funny. I grew up very Christian, and I don't remember there ever being teachings against watching stuff with magic in it.
Oh,
that's a different kind of fucking bullshit, right?
Okay, well, I've had a little bit of that.
Yeah,
I don't think anybody ever told me magic and wizards were demonic, but it was so antithetical to what Christianity suggests about the nature of the universe that we weren't allowed to watch a lot of that stuff. And I remember people around us, people in the church, saying stuff like that. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, strange how far I've come, huh?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so are you done?
I'm done.
All right, I'm going to tell a story I didn't even write down to tell, but I just was reminded of today about when I went to Regal Cinemas University.
It sounds thrilling.
This is in Knoxville, Tennessee.
Yes, Regal, I think still is headquartered in Knoxville, Tennessee,
so.
Even though they're part of a larger entertainment group now with UA and all that other stuff. And so this was basically, you go to the home office for a week, they put you up in a hotel, you get a per diem for your meals every night, but during the day, they had to actually set up this little room as a classroom. But it looked like a theater. There was a concession stand, there was a popper, there was a drink stand, and then there were all these little desks in front of it. It was basically classroom training / motivating you. And I might have talked about this a little bit. I did come back from that motivated. I wanted to be a better manager. I came up with these like
incentives?
Incentives for the employees, like theater bucks and whatnot, and all these tips that they had told us. This is when I did talk about this. This is when I implemented that. The complaining customer turned him into my secret shopper. Turned out he was a pedophile. This was because I had come back from this week-long thing where they told me to turn your complaining customer into a secret shopper. Thanks, Regal. So anyway, first day of classroom training, very first thing that they do is they go around the room and everybody has to stand up and they ask you a question about the theater business. And they want to see how much you know. I'm the first guy to go. I shouldn't be. I'm in the third row, one seat over to the right. It's a completely random choice. You go first. I stand up. What's the ratio of popcorn and oil? Or popcorn to oil for the popper? Mm-hmm. Now, in my head, I'm like, motherfucker, I have never cooked popcorn when I worked for Regal. Last time I cooked popcorn was in Illinois, working for a tiny chain. Like, I run the booth. I run the staff. I'm looking at numbers and P&Ls and shit. Come on. And so I sat there for a few minutes and I go, 4-1. And he goes, that's correct. Sit down. And I was like, yes. But the real reason I want to tell this story, so you're in this room for 8 hours a day with 15 people, and they're all from all over the country. There was this really hot girl from Houston that I tried to flirt with every single day, and I didn't get anywhere. But this is where I first learned how much the average American young adult binge drinks. Like, we got done, and I'm like thinking, maybe I'll go see a movie. Maybe I'll chill in the hotel and watch some TV. And they're all like, where are we going to party? And every single night, we would go out to eat, and everyone but me would be sloshed by the end of it. I couldn't believe how much these people drink. Like, I could not believe it. And then everybody's hungover the next morning. And of course, the reason I couldn't get with this girl was that she kept getting too hammered.
Oh.
And I'm like, okay, well, it's starting to become less attractive. Anyway, the entire reason I'm telling this story is for this one guy named Jeff. And I think he was from New York. I forget where. But he was one of these. He was the effervescent life of the party, class clown guy. Everybody loved him. He was funny. He was outrageous. He talked a lot, cracked a lot of jokes. But the only thing I really remember him for was every single meal he talked about the website he was going to make one day that was going to make him rich. Mm-hmm. And I apologize in advance to anyone that actually Googles this or types this in, because I have no idea if he ever made this website. But it was customjarsofcrap.com, where he was going to let sickos on the internet tell him exactly what to eat. And then he would poop into a jar.
Oh, no.
And ship it to them.
Oh, no.
And he talked about it a lot, to where I lost my appetite at times. Because the very concept is icky, but he was so enthusiastic.
Oh, my God.
Like, he was convinced this, and for all I know, he did it. And that's a real website, and he gets 100 orders a month. I have no idea. Because I've seen some weird shit on the internet. It would not surprise me if someone wants to buy someone else's custom meal crap.
Oh, my God.
Oh, my God.
But that's one of the most outrageous individuals I've ever met in any setting, especially some kind of a work training environment.
Is crazy.
And I'm pretty sure he got with the girl from Houston that I wanted to get with.
Wow.
What?
Yeah.
Of course he did.
That's a coda right there.
Of course he did.
Again, you're less attractive to me now if you want to be with that guy. Look at how much of his day, his mind is devoted to this idea.
She's a fecal-philiac.
Yeah.
Fecal-philiac.
Coining terms on this.
I've heard this before. I don't know where, but I did not make it up.
That's funny.
It is insane that your story is shit-based, because my next one is shit-based.
I can't wait. Awesome.
This is a very, very short story. Okay, so this would have happened in probably 1993, the first year that I was working in a movie theater. And I sincerely doubt this type of thing could ever happen again without something like some sort of, media blitz, maybe. Who knows? I don't know. There's probably a lot of shit that goes down in, service industries that we're not sure about. But so in 1993, I was 16 and I was in concession stand. And I hated concession stand, man. Good God, did I hate that.
Yeah, it's awful.
Like, I loved working the floor, tearing tickets and cleaning theaters. I'd rather pick up the trash than serve it. But again, I'm going to tell you a story about, was I actually there? Because I can't believe this happened. So we're cleaning up concessions. It's the end of the night. We've got our drawers back in the office. They're counting the money and all this other type of stuff. And, we're getting all of our stuff clean and everything. And the manager at the time, the assistant manager, comes out. Now, I'm in like one of those island concession stands where like everybody from all sides can go to the concession stands. It's right in the middle. That's how the Williamson Square one was set up. So like, you could see the door that led to the back rooms and everything. The office was to the left, and then you saw all the inventory and stuff like that was all back there. So he came up to this door where the concessions was, and he just started laughing maniacally, and then he walked off. And me and whoever else was in the concession stand looked down, and he had put a turd on the ground and walked off laughing.
What the hell?
And again, this was 24 years ago. Did this actually happen? How do I remember it if it didn't? Am I in another like universe where this happened and I just have the memories from it? Am I in frequency right now? he quickly got it back up, but he just wanted to see the reactions of our faces.
He picked it up?
He picked it back up. He just wanted to. I think he just wanted to see the reaction. I think he he had done it earlier in the night, like went the number 2 and everything, and like saved it or something, or he just did it and he picked it out, and then he like. But the fact is, I didn't see what he put down until he laughed and he walked away. And we looked down and we're like, no. We were like, he didn't. No, that's not real, is it? That's not real, is
Maybe
it?
it was a prop turd.
Maybe. I don't think it was. I just couldn't believe it. I can't remember if I'm trying to remember if I think he's the one who actually had to pick it up. I mean, he's not going to make us pick that shit up. 16 years old.
God.
Again, did that really happen? I can't believe that happened. I can't believe it did.
Well, I don't have any more shit-based stories.
Good. I don't either.
I could tell the story that I only heard secondhand about how when they opened that theater, they did the premiere for Black Dog there, that Swayze trucker movie. And Bob Seger was apparently in the movie or on the soundtrack.
Yep.
And went number 2 in the upstairs booth bathroom.
Oh, okay.
Which was off limits to customers, except for Bob Seger.
Hey. The toilet upstairs had quite a few celebrity asses on it. Was it like Tom Petty did it once too?
I think so.
Because I remember you telling me about Tom Petty being there one night too. But I guess Bob Seger also, huh?
Nice.
Well, that was before I was there. I think before you were there.
Yeah, it was definitely before I was there.
I do have a Hollywood 27 store. I think you were there. I think you were there that night.
Oh yeah.
But this is probably my biggest projection fuck up ever. Now, this is back. Okay, for those of you kids at home who only know digital cinema, this is back with film, where we had to build these movies, right? And sometimes, especially when we had this one particular female GM who was kind of obsessed with moving prints around to different houses to try and maximize the size of her theaters, you'd have to move this ginormous flat cylindric film that's already built from one platter to another projector's platter. Now, if you have 2 people, you can generally get your arms under there and widen them out enough, one on each side, and you've basically got 4 points holding this thing together.
Usually it's tight enough, too.
Yeah, that's the thing. It depends on how tight it was built and how tight it is around, because some platters, maybe it was just the brain, but some of them were not as tight as others. Now, we had some tools to help us move prints, right? We had clamps, which go on both sides. We would often just tape it up with a bunch of masking tape. And we also had this wheeled flat table thing that you could slide a print off of the platter onto this table and then just push it around like a shopping cart. I chose none of those methods to move Scream 3. Now, I don't know if you remember this.
I do remember.
But most everybody in the theater business enjoyed Scream 1 and 2. Probably because it plays so much with movies and quoting dialogue like we all do and whatnot. So there was much anticipation for Scream 3. And this was large. It was a big-ass print. Average movie, 6 or 7 reels. Kids' movies, 5 reels, sometimes 4.
Now, I don't remember Scream 3 being that long.
Please say it was big because I'm about to drop it.
Well, here's the thing. I know you're about to drop it. The thing is, though, is that even if it was a short movie, and if it happened to have been loosely built, or if it had run through a projector or something like that, there's a chance that it could have looked bigger. Because if you run through a projector and the sprockets are just such a way, it'll stretch the sprockets out. Every single one of those sprockets are stretched out to the point that the movie looks bigger than normal.
Right.
Now, if this was just built, by the way, this explains a lot of shit. I wasn't here for this, but I guarantee I know a story tangent to this, but go ahead.
Okay, well, I want you to tell that one in a minute. Now, when you're one of the prominent booth managers, like Chris and I were most of our time there, sometimes it's just a pain in the ass if you got to move a 5-reel short kids movie print to call somebody on the radio and wait for their ass to come all the way down the hall or upstairs to help you move it. So I devised this method of taking one hand and going through the hole and putting it under the film on the far side. And then I would use my other arm under the film on the near side of the hole. and I would kind of awkwardly shuffle like this. And if it wasn't a huge move, I never had any issues with that, with a decent-sized, small-sized print.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody has already gone down that list. I think we had 3 or 4 prints of this, maybe more.
Yeah, it was a lot.
And we had a lot of projectionists that weren't managers at the time. And so everybody wanted to watch this, and some were going to watch together, and some were going to watch to check their own prints that they had built. But everyone is gone. And I'm going to move mine down to number 13, and I'm going to watch it there. And so I put my hand in, and put my other hand in. And I know as soon as I do it, this is a stupid idea. This is really dumb. But I don't want to go pull anybody out of their version of Scream 3, their print, to help me move it. And for whatever reason, I couldn't watch it where it was. I think it might have been even on the build table or something. So I get all the way down the hallway. This is probably 50 yards.
Mm-hmm.
I'm 3 feet away from the platter. And it just disintegrates.
That's what it usually happens.
And so now I have at least 6 or 7 reels in this, what I always called a salad, on the floor.
Oh, shit.
And I basically have to go through this and fix it and put it all back in order. And it's so tangled, I'm going to have to cut it in several places to untangle.
Oh.
And then remember to go back and restitch that together. So right about the time, I think I made 30 cuts in that print.
Mm-hmm.
This is terrible, by the way, because the next day that print's performance is going to be awful because the splicing tape is going to be much more obvious. It's very hard to make perfect splices every single time when you're making that many splices. And all I really cared about was getting it off the carpet where it was going to get scratched all to hell and back in the right order. And I finished. And everybody came walking out of their Scream 3s like, we saw that movie. I was like, what happened to you, Jeremy? What are you doing? I didn't even get to watch it. It was like 3 in the goddamn morning. And I was like, fuck it, I'm going home. I spent like the entirety of that movie, I know it's over 2 hours long, fixing my copy of that movie.
Oh, my God.
And never again did I move a print by myself like that. Ever again. Because I was so pissed. Because I know better than that. I'm the guy that prides myself on, I only made 1 bad splice build-it movie ever. I wanted to be good. I'm smarter than that. And I just failed. My eyes were too big for my stomach.
Scream 3 is just under 2 hours by itself, but you have to also factor in about 15 minutes of preview.
I'm so wrong about this movie, except the fact that I dropped it.
But
I've said it's been wrong.
It's a chance that it was a 7-reel movie. I mean, sometimes they would just, for whatever reason, they'd stick that 7th reel on there and it'd be like mostly credits.
Yeah.
I did not know about the Scream 3 issue that you had, actually. But it answers a question that I had always had about Scream 3, because on opening weekend of that movie, I had seen it in another auditorium. And I don't know if I saw it that night or anything, but I watched it and everything was fine. But it was within a couple of days that I heard a complaint from somebody who had seen the movie and then saw it again the next day. They said there was an entire scene missing.
So I cut a scene out of the movie?
There's no other explanation.
Where did I put it?
I don't know.
Oh my God.
Because
I thought I'd done it perfect.
Unless for some reason it just really didn't have that scene, but it wouldn't make any sense. The scene in question was that Sydney, Neve Campbell, goes to the set where they're shooting the movie.
Okay.
And when she's in her room on the set, somebody dressed as Ghostface shows up and she jumps out of the window or whatever. Apparently, all the lead up as far as seeing the Ghostface there and everything was gone, and she was just on the lawn or whatever.
I was just trying to get it back down to 6 reels.
You know what? I'll tell you what's even worse about that. I don't think we ever replaced that print.
Do you remember if it was 13?
It was somewhere around there.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I think I remember hearing 19 at the time, but that was like right across from 13.
I wonder if we discussed this 20 years ago and I've just forgotten
There's
all
a
about
possibility. I don't know.
Oh my
all
God.
I remember was I saw the movie with another projectionist, and then afterwards, I don't think anybody, because I saw that movie late.
Yeah.
So it could have been well after you were gone or whatever like that. All I remember was 2 days afterwards hearing that complaint, and I was like, that just doesn't make any sense. Everybody watched the movie. They didn't say anything was wrong with it.
I edited Scream 3. I'm going to put it on my IMDb page.
I'm going to tell you something. What Jeremy has described here has happened to me more than 20 times.
Jesus Christ.
The reason being is, yes, you do have clamps. Yes, you do have other people that can help you move the movies at times. Yes, you do have a cart that you can put the movie on and all that. But despite all of that stupidity of not using them, you have a job to do that takes forever on a Thursday night. And, obviously this is not a problem anymore because it's digital. But when, you're done with the week and there are all these movies that have to get moved to different places and all this other type of stuff, putting clamps on them, taking it to somewhere, taking the clamps off, putting the clamps on another movie, taking it so on and so forth, takes forever. Yeah. And I decided a long time ago that it was worth the once in a year time that it happened where a salad happened on the ground to not go through all of that. And I would take responsibility for it if they wanted to dock me pay or whatever. I don't really give a shit. I hate putting the clamps on the movies. And so that happened many times. And what would happen for the most part is when you would move a movie, it would have the first 3 reels would stay right there on the ring, and the other 3 reels are the ones that would just go. It was like you could hear the accompanying like Hollywood sound effect. It would be like with
a muted.
Yeah. Exactly. I did this with the movie Inception once that took me like 3 or 4 hours.
Oh, that one was at least 7 or 8
That
reels.
was a long movie, and I was moving it one day, and just like that, and I got to the projector. You're always at the projector when it's happening.
It's like how accidents happen within like a block from your house.
Yeah. Well, the thing is that you're carrying it pretty okay up until that point, but the problem is you have to take it from a vertical to a horizontal, and that force is what causes that issue. And I'll remember when I was in New York, I was at Atlas Park, and I believe there were 2 movies I did that with. The Illusionist was one. I didn't want to watch the movie. I ended up having to because I fucked it up.
Did you cut any scenes out of that one?
No, I was actually pretty good. I think maybe From Dusk Till Dawn, during that story that I told many, many podcasts ago, From Dusk Till Dawn, may have been the closest, but I think I kept that intact too. And there must have been 60 splices in that thing. And that's not great because when it's going through, it's just like a constant barrage to that projector. And if you're not good at splicing, especially, it's just, at the time I was like probably pretty novice at it. But yeah, it's happened many times. It also happened with, I believe, Princess Diaries 2. I had to watch that. Bullshit.
Did I told Barrett outside, but I didn't tell you that I saw a headline the other day, or at least I didn't tell you on the podcast, that said, why Julie Andrews isn't going to be in the new Mary Poppins movie. My instant reaction was, because she's dead, idiot. Why did you write a whole article about this? And I had to go Google and find out, oh, she's not dead. Totally still alive. And for some reason, I had just been absolutely convinced Julie Andrews was dead. Nope, she's alive.
Oh, man. I guess the final Was I There was actually a pretty cool thing. And this also happened at the Williamson Square movie theater. I had become a projectionist in 95. This was also in 1998 this happened.
Wow.
Tying it into the Nashville Predators when I was watching back then in 1998.
Yeah.
On the old Channel 30, they used to put it on.
Yeah.
So in 1998, a lot of changes had happened with the theater where I was basically upstairs all the time, and they just didn't need me downstairs. And so I had old TV up in this little office, and I could watch stuff like Predators and stuff like that. And this was their inaugural season.
Mm.
And whenever somebody on the other team gets a penalty, they play the Psycho music. And so it's an excuse for everybody to do their fang fingers and everything. Although that's not nearly as prominent as it used to be.
I'm glad. I always thought the fang fingers was a little silly.
Yeah.
I don't mind the Psycho music, but I don't need to make air quotes in time with it.
Yeah, and it used to be like on the Jumbotron or whatever.
Yeah.
They would have like Chris Farley doing the quote
Well,
thing.
and the voice guy would even say fang fingers.
Yeah. Well, doesn't he still?
He still
might.
does that.
He still does that.
Yeah.
We just sort of ignore it now because nobody does the whole, finger thing.
It's like the wizard Tim from Monty
Yeah,
Python.
yeah, right. Yeah. So they would put a whole bunch of clips of people doing like the fang fingers on the screen or whatever. But so in 1998, if you recall, the remake of Psycho was coming out.
Yeah.
The baffling shot-for-shot remake.
The baffling shot from Gus Van Sant of all people, with Vince Vaughn, Anne Heche, and et al. I always think about the crazy amount of coincidence for this thing to happen. I'm watching The Predators on this channel. This whatever, what 30 UPN or whatever the fuck it was back then. Whoever the Predators were playing got a penalty. The music started playing. I start walking towards my next projector, like, all right, it's time to start the next movie. The projector right next to the place where I was watching the game, the volume was up slightly enough that I could hear the trailer that was playing, and it was Psycho. Now, that is crazy in of itself, but it was in exact sync with what was on the television.
That's crazy.
Well, as they got to the title of Psycho and it plays the Psycho music, it was exact sync. Like it was stereo coming out of that whole thing.
Wow.
I sit there and I think about the amount of things that have to happen for this to be the coincidence that it is. The other team has to get a penalty at that exact moment. I have to have the volume. You usually never have the volume up, your monitor volume upstairs for any reason. But it was up just enough so that I could hear that at the same time. And you have to have started a movie that has that Psycho trailer on it and that it's coming on at the same time.
Synchronicity, man.
I've always thought that's one of the coolest stories.
Yeah.
That is cool.
Yeah. You've told me that one before.
Yeah.
I like it. It's almost impossible. You definitely couldn't engineer that to happen.
No.
If you wanted to.
No, you couldn't try to make that happen.
You could actually even have an inside man on the other hockey team who's going to take a penalty at a specific moment, and you've timed to start the movie at the specific moment. You still couldn't get it.
Yeah, you would never be able to get it like that.
No.
No.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So I don't know how great of intrigue that story is, but it's always like, it's another one of those stories. Did that actually happen? That actually happened. At the very least, the Psycho trailer was on at the time.
Yeah.
But I know that it was like, I had to do a double take. So anyway.
Okay, so if you go to Regal Cinemas to watch a movie, you're probably familiar with these Coke ads that run right before the trailers, where it's like you hear the tab opening, and they got one with people in the theater talking about how much they're excited to see this movie.
Well, and now they have like 3 of them, or they're all like disguised as other things or whatever. Like one is the straight up like, Coke, go there, get it. Then there's the other ones though, where it's like people go into a theater or something like that, and they're like, enjoy the Coke, and all that. And it's like, oh, isn't that sweet? They're all having a good time at the movies together. Maybe we should also share a Coke at the same time and do that. Yeah, there's like 3 of them now.
Now, this is a very silly thing to me for a number of reasons. First of all, audience doesn't have a choice.
Yeah, exactly.
If they go buy a drink, right now, Regal has a contract with Coke, and they only serve Coke products.
Yep.
Can't get a Pepsi. Can't get a Mountain Dew. But it's written in stone. So why do you feel the need to advertise so much? The only reason you're doing it is for that, 2% of people who didn't get concessions earlier, but an advertisement on a screen is going to get them to go, oh yeah, I do want something to drink, and walk back out and buy something.
That's ultimately what it is. Yeah.
But that's even stupider because I've worked at a high enough level in the company, I know for a fact, Coke pays Regal to sell their drinks. Basically, they made this deal. Regal got a lot of money to only sell Coke products, to put those goddamn ads on, and to put up Coke signs all over the lobby. And then for every bag in a box that we bought from Coke, they reimbursed us.
Mm-hmm.
So you're not even making money from those sales.
Yeah. It's brand awareness.
It's just you're just hoping Coke stays with me all day long. Okay. Anyway, used to be Pepsi.
Yep.
Back in the 90s, when Chris and I worked at the theater, it was Pepsi.
Yep.
And I remember when they changed over to Coke.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you were there.
Yes, I was.
But it was essentially 2 weeks of the most drill sergeant-y dictatorship from our boss about cleaning.
Mm-hmm.
Because for whatever reason, they decided to have this big event at Hollywood 27 where the CEOs and executives from Coke and the CEOs and executives from Regal were all going to show up. And they were going to watch, as part of their visit, the new trailer. So they had a new ad trailer thing that had Coke products in it instead of Pepsi, and they were all going to go in there and watch it. So they were supposed to take a tour of the theater. Now, at the time, this was probably one of the flagships of Regal. It was certainly the biggest theater in the company. Still was making a lot of money at this point. And so we just had to bust our... I was either the first assistant or close to that at that point in time, and we just had to bust our ass clean so hard. Clean every single speck of dust.
That's exactly what I'm talking about with that Spider-Man 3 thing. Like I don't understand the need to clean every single thing. Nobody gives a shit. Does anybody give a shit? Nobody does. But you want to justify your job by telling somebody to go clean that thing.
Well, and also I think the GM at the time, she wanted to look good for her bosses and the Coke bosses and put on a good show, to the point where she had ordered a red carpet.
Oh.
And when they pulled up, we were going to go out there and literally roll out a red carpet, but there were some problems with the delivery of the red carpet.
Uh-huh.
The day of the event, I spent literally 3 hours scrambling to get a red carpet from somewhere because the one she had ordered hadn't shown up, and she had to have that red carpet.
Oh, my God.
Similar to what you're saying now, or were saying a second ago, who fucking cares?
Yeah.
Is the Coke guy going to go to the Regal CEO? Hey, man, where's my red carpet, dude?
Exactly.
What's up with that? But she had to have... Well, I got it. I didn't get any kudos. I didn't make any extra money. I got the goddamn red carpet. We got the whole 27 auditorium theater sparkling like it was brand new. And these executives file in, walk immediately down to 15, watch a 1.5-minute trailer, and walk right the fuck back out and left.
Oh, come on.
That was literally it.
My God.
That's all that ever happens. That's all that ever happens. This is why I got really upset at people, the managers who would get into this whole we've got to clean every single speck of dust type of thing. As an aside, and I guess this would count as another story or whatever, but I've got 2 more now because of this story. But like as an aside, I remember there being some Regal people coming to our theater, and like it was one of those all hands on deck type of things where everybody came out and cleaned a whole bunch of stuff and everything. And I told the manager at the time, I said, all right, I've cleaned this, and this. Take a look around. Tell me if there's anything else that you need to be cleaned. I'm going to do some other stuff until you tell me that. And I know he's busy, probably doesn't hear every single word that I say, but whatever. It was a Wednesday when this happened, and I think the inspection was on a Thursday. And I was building a print for the next day because I didn't want to have a huge amount of work to do just because of this inspection and everything. And this manager comes from out of the darkness in the projection booth, and he's like, "Chris, come over here right now." And I was like, don't you ever fucking yell at me like that. there's no fucking reason for that shit. And I got enough F-bombs in that he threatened to fire me.
Shit. You actually said that?
Hell yeah, I did.
Oh, nice.
No, you got to remember, you weren't there for any of it, but I'm not lying when I say Chris didn't give a fuck. He said what he thought to customers and managers alike, and somehow stayed employed for 20 plus years in the industry.
No idea how either. I thought for sure a couple of times I was going to get fired for that type of stuff. Well, and for me, it was always about this. I am understanding to a point. If you keep berating, what are you seeking here? Okay, I'll give you what you want then. Here you go.
Yeah.
But there was no need for that. And it was all about some fucking CD tower that we don't even use anymore that was in between 20 and 21. It was like a thing that you put the CDs in and the music plays over the entire building and it's your intercom system. None of this shit ever used at all. And it's, obviously it's a collection farm for dust bunnies and everything at this point. I didn't think about it. You walk past it without two thoughts about a fucking thing like that. And he opened it up and he saw all the dust and he wanted to yell at me about it. And I was like, you are not getting away with yelling at me.
If this is the guy I think it was, that was just sort of his deal anyway.
It was his deal. And a lot of the people that worked with him before were just shocked that I would do this because that's something you don't do with a guy like that. And I did not. You're right. I did not give a fuck. You want to fire me over this? Okay, fine. I will get another job. I'm at that point in the movie theater business where if you fired me, you do me a favor. It's funny also that you bring up this, and I don't know if this was the same trailer. Was this a regular Coke trailer?
I think it was the Regal policy trailer with Coke.
With Hallie Kate Eisenberg?
Oh, no, that was Pepsi.
Was that a Pepsi one?
That was a Pepsi one.
Okay. For the longest time, and they've gotten back to it, they've got an updated roller coaster thing for Regal. And it, nice, fun, fast, 30 seconds. You even saw people in the theater pretending like they were actually on roller coasters.
Every fucking time.
And then they changed it to this Hallie Kate Eisenberg thing, which was like a minute and a half. And it went on interminably. Like she comes in, she's got, it's real funny because she's got this like Jack Palance voice coming out of her while she's talking and everything. Little bitty, like 8-year-old Hallie Kate Eisenberg. And it's just going through there. She's going through saying like it's the Wild West and she's in a saloon and she's telling all these people, I don't want to hear any talking and I don't want to hear any, don't want to see you smoking. Actually, though, there was a whole big thing about the smoking. The guy's like smoking a cigar and she shoots the cigar and everything. So this is like a minute and a half. It might be a minute, but even if it's a minute, it just takes forever because it's just like all of this just to tell us to behave. I mean, what
don't smoke and don't talk.
There was one day, this is what I'm getting to. There was one day because we had a sneak preview of this movie that this happened to. And this policy trailer has to be on everything. Yeah. Sneak previews typically had nothing on them, like, maybe a trailer, but you'd also have to put the policy trailer on. So, whatever the sneak preview was had the policy trailer on. And then all you had to do was add a preview pack to it to complete when it actually got out. Now, when people build preview packs, they'll often put a logo, on there as well. Yeah. So they built it with the logo and attached it to the existing print.
So now you got 2 policy trailers.
So I walked past that next day, and I don't think we heard a complaint, which is weird, but like I walked past it and I was just seeing if the lights would go down and the lights went down. And the trailer went through, and I was like, okay, movie's about to start. And then the fucking same goddamn fucking thing came on. And of course, there's another cue on it, so the lights come back up. And it's like it goes again. It's so awful. It's so bad.
That's really annoying.
Oh my god! Yeah, the next show, I was like, all right, we're yanking that shit off.
I don't remember the details, but I remember there was a print somebody put together that that had the same trailer in it twice.
Oh,
but
yeah,
there
yeah.
were like 2 trailers in between it.
Oh, yeah.
I remember hearing complaint about that.
The one time that it happened, as far as trailers are concerned, when I was at Williamson Square, and it almost, because of the movie, felt like it was on purpose, was the Naked Gun 33 1/3. It's like a, I can't remember, it's him on a cliff or something, and he falls down the cliff. It's a real short trailer, but it went back to back. But do we have any more movie theater stories?
I've got a few, but nothing major, and my heart is clear, and I'll save them for the next round. I think we have another main topic today, do we
do.
not?
But,
Well, we got our
I
movie
was going to
club.
get to that. I just wanted to make sure before I got to that next topic, nobody wanted to have anything else to say.
I'm just impressed. Where did you find a red carpet?
Oh, it was this, basically, it was a costume store down the road
Yeah, yeah.
that had a red carpet as part of their layout.
Ah.
Like you walk, I guess they wanted you to feel like you were in Hollywood or something, looking at all the costumes, and they just let me borrow it.
Nice.
nice.
Because, I mean, you have never seen desperation like what I gave that woman. Please, can I borrow this? I'll
Well,
give
you
you my
know what?
ID.
You know what though? She ruled with such a beautiful iron hand that
did.
that you just wanted to run into a wall for.
Yes, to end your life.
That's the man. She was the perfect manager. Okay, so now we're gonna do the movie club, and we're gonna be going to the water.
You should join our club. You and your friend.
Now, if you're not going to take this seriously, perhaps we should disband the club now.
I love being a part of things.
Yeah, baby.
baby, I hope you brought your trunks.
Don't drink the water.
Oh, that's like the
blood
most
in the
annoying song
water.
ever. That
think
song
so?
turned me off Dave Matthews.
Man, I love that song.
I kinda like that
really?
song,
I love
too.
it.
Yeah.
You like it too?
I do too, yeah.
I'm on an island?
Yeah.
Man, it's just...
I think the majority of people probably don't like
it's
that
not
song.
melodic at all.
No.
I mean, if you like it, I think what you're liking is the mood it's trying to set.
Yeah, it's an atypical Dave Matthews song.
Yeah.
Yeah, not a fan.
Extremely dark.
Not a fan.
Dave Matthews Band. Anyway, we're going to be going to the water
Yeah,
with
baby.
our stuff here today. So who wants to kick us off?
I'll kick us off with something super old.
Kick it!
All right, so we're going to do our same format of what we consider the best and our favorite underseen movies and underrated movies, what we consider from the three of us. And to start us off, I think we can all agree that the best movie about the water is Jaws.
I think I would agree with that.
It's terrific. It's got everything about summer. It's got everything about horror, comedy, drama, all that stuff all rolled into one. So we're just kind of saying, if you haven't seen that, what's wrong with you? Go watch that and then watch these other things later on. But what I consider as one of the best and that's held up over time is 1956's Moby Dick.
Oh.
And
Damn.
it's a weird thing because obviously the effects have been, light years ahead of what it was back then. It was directed by John Huston, and the screenplay was actually written based on the Melville novel, but it was written by John Huston and Ray Bradbury.
Oh, really?
Oh, wow.
And it's really, really great. It's a quick movie. It's still around like 2 hours, but it feels quick. It's really well paced. It's got Gregory Peck as Captain Ahab
Wow.
in this, and he is marvelous. What you think of, everybody reads Moby Dick in high school or whatever, and you think of Ahab as this just gruntled, just kind of, almost a cliche even at that point when you're reading the book. But he injects a lot of life into this character and a lot of his escalating insanity about chasing after this whale. And it's really, really fucking good, man.
Man, I have never seen this movie.
It is worth it.
Here's the thing about movies like that is that there are so many adaptations that you never really know what's the definitive good one a lot of times. So this wasn't even on my radar. There's so many Moby Dick adaptations that, it's like, well, which one do you start with? They're
Yeah.
all the same fucking shit.
My
So-
wife watched Captain's Courageous, a black and white version, which is also a water movie, and fell in love with it. So I went to buy it for her online. I bought the wrong one.
Oh, really?
I'm like, who knew there were multiple copies? She's like, this isn't
I've
the
seen
one I saw.
Yeah, different ones. But this is, if you're going to watch Moby Dick, it is quintessential about the water. Matter of fact, at the beginning, Ishmael says that famous quote, "There's magic in the water that calls men to the sea." And that's kind of how I've always been drawn to movies about boats and ships and water, and just because it's so vast, it's almost like space movies to me. There's so much unknown shit out there that it's just super fascinating. And this is a great representation of that Melville novel, and it really keeps you absorbed. And the coda to is Orson Welles is in this movie.
Oh, wow.
And he plays this ostentatious preacher that proselytized to the congregation before these guys go out on their whaling ship mission. And oh God, he's got this wonderful monologue / sermon that just people who can act in a certain echelon, like Daniel Day-Lewis, Orson Welles, Meryl Streep, that kind of thing, where you're just like, oh man, I mean, it's just so compelling to watch.
Wow.
And Gregory Peck and Orson Welles alone are worth watching this movie.
That was some prime John Huston territory because he did Treasure of the Sierra Madre, which is another kind of he was really good at that type of stuff. When you said his name, I was like, that's probably pretty good.
And there's some shots in this thing that it's claustrophobic. It's ship based. It's an elevator episode or whatever you want to call it, but he shoots it in a way that it's brilliant. I mean, everything's framed really beautifully. So definitely check it out.
All right. Was that your best or your favorite?
That was my best.
All right. Well, you go next because we both listed some of the same ones. I'll let you pick first.
Okay. I'm going to go with The Hunt for Red October.
Oh,
Nice.
yeah.
I don't know where this movie sits with a lot of people nowadays. Is it something that people like, there's probably not very many people under the age of 20 or 30 even that maybe hold this in
You're probably right. Yeah.
hold this movie in high esteem. I guess the Clancy verse is kind of an outdated type of thing.
Yeah.
The whole, despite what's going on in the country right now and everything, the U.S. versus the Russians is still, that was a huge prominent thing in the 80s and early 90s. Was that whole thing. But The Hunt for Red October does a great, it's such a great, Alec Baldwin going through here, and despite all odds, but it feels like his journey is like is true. Like there's not any like stupid luck or something. He does have some luck, obviously, but it doesn't feel like it's unearned by the time he does it. And he knows that this submarine is not coming here to attack the United States, and everybody else who's who's real heightened about it and everything is like, doesn't matter. We're gonna have to blow this thing out of the water and all that. And his whole thing is just like, I have to get on this closest sub to tell these guys not to do it, and I have to convince them of this crazy story. And just so many great actors in this. Alec Baldwin, who was the best Jack Ryan.
Yeah, absolutely.
Easily. Unfortunately I thought Harrison Ford was okay. It just didn't make sense to translate him from Alec Baldwin. But Sean Connery, and Sam Neill, before a lot of us really knew who he was. And a surprise Tim Curry performance in there too. But
I love surprise Tim Curry.
Exactly.
He's the best Tim Curry.
But it's so tense the entire time. The scene where Baldwin goes and talks to Jeffrey Jones, and Jones tells him about this submarine, and you get this whole kind of like this is exposition where it's great. Like it's not just like somebody in a boardroom somewhere going, all right, see this submarine here? It has a caterpillar system, and it can't be heard. All right, any questions? The Jeffrey Jones scene is very tense, and because he's sitting there relating this to the Cuba Missile Crisis,
right?
And everything, and it's like, oh, okay, so we are really dealing with a 50-50 type thing here. Ramius is taking this boat because it has the power, and it has the power to attack the United States.
And that's what I was going to say is all the government military people that want to blow it up aren't wrong.
Right.
There's that scene where they say, would you classify this as a first strike weapon? And it is. And Ramius even says later, my own plans for defection began the day that I saw the plans for this ship.
Right.
Which are built with one purpose. And so, they wouldn't be wrong if they shot him down. That's exactly why Russia built that sub.
Yeah.
And, if Ryan's wrong and he's not actually defecting, we're dead.
Yeah, exactly. And he has to convince all these people. And it gets to the point, too, where at the most desperate moment, he's talking to Scott Glenn, and he's like going around the ship telling him in this very heart full of heart way and everything. And there's a point where Scott Glenn's like, It's like bring this guy up to the captain's deck with his firearm, and the guy's like snaps his fingers, and everything, and finally he has to have that crazy luck with the crazy Ivan and all other type of stuff to get and everything, and it's one of the funniest parts of the movie too, where he explains, how'd you know he was going to turn starboard this time? And like, I didn't, I had a 50-50 chance, and he didn't break. But yeah, it's a really tense submarine movie, and I think it's a great movie, but I don't quite hear people talking about it today in those same kind of terms. I don't know why that is. Maybe it feels outdated in some way. But it's an extremely tense and like surprisingly funny at times.
Yeah, it's smart.
It's very smart,
and it's, in my opinion, the best submarine movie ever made.
I was going to ask that, right? I mean, what the competition is Das Boot and U571
Crimson
Tide.
There's some older ones too that I think get in there, but yeah, like Das Boot and
what's that one with Harrison Ford and Liam Neeson?
Oh, the Widowmaker, yeah.
Oh, K9.
Yeah, K9 is Widowmaker.
K19.
K9.
Jim Belushi.
Yeah, exactly. But
it's a dog submarine.
Yeah, there was like a strange, after Crimson Tide, there was like, U571 tried to come out, and then Widowmaker, and none of those were any good. I think if you're going to watch something that's just, just about 100% excellent all the way through it. This is John McTiernan again. It's a fucking Die Hard and Hunt for October, like right back to back. The guy was on a different level. Man.
Yeah, he really was. And then he went to jail. I mention that every time we bring his name up. I'm such a dick. I'm sorry, John. You're out now, I think. So.
Yep.
Of course, I'm sure he's an avid listener to the show.
He is. He totally is. We love him except for his tax evasion or whatever. The fuck
whatever. It wasn't like a violent crime,
right?
So I'm going to go with Finding Nemo, a movie that I have frequently called perfect. I'm going to tell you what happened with this movie, and it does make me sad, Chris, every time that you talk about the golden years of Pixar. With that run that ends with Up, that we don't start with Finding Nemo, we start with The Incredibles, because I think Finding Nemo is part of that run. But there was a period in my life where my wife and I had just gotten married, and we didn't have enough money to get cable. And so what I found myself doing was, because there's like 6 channels that can get over the air, and they all suck. They're all showing news. So I for about 8 to 12 months, I would just pop in movies. And I didn't own a ton of movies at this point either. And so I ended up rewatching a lot of movies over and over. And this is how I fell in love with The Dark Knight. This is how I fell in love with Finding Nemo. And right after that opening scene, when he's just got Nemo and he's like, there, daddy's got you. And it pans up and this music swells to that do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do. Goosebumps right here, just talking about it. I feel like it's a movie that has a little bit of everything. It's got adventure, it's got comedy, it's kind of a road movie. All as usual, all the voice actors in this Pixar movie are fantastic. I think the music is elevated here. And this is before Giacchino came on and started doing most of the Pixar stuff. He does The Incredibles, which is also an awesome score, but something about this music that not only gives me goosebumps, it just sets me at ease. Like I feel very in the womb when I watch this movie. If that makes any sense.
Well, Newman sort of does what he does in Shawshank in this movie. He's even got one that sounds exactly like when Andy is going out. Like a lot of the Shawshank Redemption stuff seems. But the Thomas Newman score is really good.
Yeah,
it gets you sort of into that feel.
Absolutely. Anyway, I just adore it. I could watch it anytime. I feel like all the characters have a moment to really make me laugh. All of them do.
Great voice cast.
Huge voice cast, because we forget about how many different fish he meets along the way that have famous voices. But and I quote this movie constantly. If I hear my wife say something with the word father, I quote, I never knew my father. I just love it. I get that I'm on a different level of love than most people. Most people think it's a great movie. And I'm, it's probably one of my 20 favorite movies to watch. Just really gives me the cuddles.
You probably should include that in the run with Incredibles and WALL-E and Up and Ratatouille and all that. Only reason I've never put it in that same thing is I've always felt like with The Incredibles is where they started to get to the point where I thought they're doing a new level type of thing. Yeah. Whereas Nemo still felt like the part of that Toy Story, Monsters Inc. era, even
I can
though.
See that.
But it really is right there in line with all of those movies,
Yeah.
though. I mean, you can't really go wrong starting with Nemo in that whole
Such a great stretch, man. There was a time where I didn't believe Pixar would ever make a bad movie.
Yeah.
Now we just synced Cars 2, and I know how wrong I was.
Exactly.
Yeah. It's a money cash grab for Disney.
My cousin said to me last night on DM on Twitter, he's got a little girl. He's like, because of your video, I asked my daughter if she wanted to watch Cars 2. No interest. She said it's the first animated movie she's ever said no to. And I was like, well, you're lucky that you didn't have to sit through that. Your daughter's a very smart child.
Oh, yeah.
All right. My favorite pick is, I think, probably the only good Pirates movie. And I don't mean of Pirates of the Caribbean, any Pirates movie. And it's the Curse of the Black Pearl.
Yeah.
This was 2003.
Yep.
And so this came out in the summer, and I had just started dating my wife, and I said, hey, we're going to go see a Pirates movie today. And I was very excited. Loved Johnny Depp. This was really his first big, huge movie, and nobody even knew what to expect at this point.
Right.
Now, Depp has become kind of a parody of himself. But, before that, it was all the indie stuff and the Tim Burton stuff and everything, and I was super excited about it. I love ship movies and ocean movies. I'd never seen a good Pirates movie. I was like, this has a possibility. She didn't want to go. And I was like, come on. We could No, I hate your taste in movies. No, come on. And we went and saw it and had a blast. It was so much fun. Nobody really had high expectations for this movie, except maybe the studio. It was based off of a ride at Disney World. It's starring, at this point, no names, Keira Knightley and Orlando Bloom. Johnny Depp is weird and whatever, but I knew there was going to be something in that. And that is the only one that's delivered. The sequels have been just garbage. But this one really, it was its own story, and that was enough for me.
Yeah, and I mean, they've really, really lost their way because there's such a drop-off. It's one of the only franchises that I like one of the movies so much more than I dislike. Like, you know what I mean? It's very entertaining. I went to that movie with my wife as well before we were married. I think everybody can have a good time there. It's a little something for everyone. And then they just got all the wrong ideas about what we liked.
Yeah.
And have just lost their way completely.
Well, we had talked about the fact that Johnny Depp's character, Jack Sparrow, wasn't the main character, was the best, or one of the best parts of the movie, right? Because he's allowed to run free on the edges, the periphery of the story, and be weird and everything, but not have that weirdness be the focus of the story.
Yeah, and then he's been front and center ever since.
Yep.
Well, and I guess I don't blame Disney for doing that. That is the cash cow that is in that series and everything. But as far as what they did to the movies, it hurt them so completely. I remember I remember watching Curse of the Black Pearl and officially being on board with it when Keira Knightley's on Barbossa's boat. And then that Hans Zimmer thing comes like doom, 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 and it's all skeletons and stuff, and like on the boat, and I was like, yes, this is exactly what I wanted. And yeah, you're right. Johnny Depp is great in it as long as he's the side character and that he's whatever. But then after that, like they have a whole fucking segment in the third one of just nothing but Jack Sparrows all over the place.
Oh my god!
And it's obviously inspired by the toy line that they're selling and everything. So, that first one is really good.
It did introduce what I would say is an iconic score too.
Oh, that score's good.
Dun, 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 dun. Man, I love that stuff. If you can give me, that was very unique at the time. It was lightning in the bottle. They got everybody just right at the right time. And I think it still holds up. Even though the sequels
you need to watch.
So
no, you don't. I'm just saying, compare that sword fight he has with Orlando Bloom in the beginning of the movie, where there's that donkey walking around that contraption, and they have to go up onto the rafters. Compare that to like the sword fight he has with Penelope Cruz in the fourth one. There's just no creativity and cleverness and comedy written into this anymore. It's just a show. It's just going through the motions. That fight with Orlando Bloom in the first one is fun, man. Yeah. It's almost a comedy routine.
It even ends with that stupid, like, you're the only person who knows that move or something like that.
The Penelope Cruz one.
It's like just a little rotation of some sort.
No one's ever done that before?
Yeah, that is crazy. But I guess on my favorite, now I've listed quite a few submarine movies, but I listed Crimson Tide, but since we've already talked about like submarine movies, I want to go to another one that could actually be best for some, and for some, very underwhelming for others. Apocalypse Now.
Oh,
interesting.
Now, I've watched Apocalypse Now a bunch, and we've discussed it before, and yes, we still don't know entirely what that movie's about. But leading up to all the stuff that we don't really know about in that movie and everything is a great, story with Martin Sheen where he's learning about this guy, and it's all on this water, and it's dangerous fucking water.
Yes, it is.
And we've got a lot of, there's a lot of these type of movies where, like, guys are on a boat and they're like, there's like, you've got Native Americans shooting stuff at them, or they're in a war, or there's like a crocodile or some shit.
What about the Native American crocodiles?
Oh yeah, the dogs that shoot bees at you. But like, there's that whole lead up to all that stuff is great. I actually like the whole movie, even though I don't understand every single.
Oh, I agree. I love
last
that movie.
bit of it or anything. It's just him reading about Kurtz during this whole thing is just fascinating because you do, like him, wonder how somebody so decorated could just fall to the madness of the war and everything, and it's just. For the longest time, this movie is a water movie.
Yeah, it is.
So
what's funny, you mentioned surprised Tim Curry, surprised Dennis Hopper.
Yeah,
in Apocalypse
That's
Now
right.
is awesome.
Oh, he's great.
He's bonkers, even for Dennis Hopper.
And
bonkers.
and he like, I mean, I think I've heard a story that he was definitely on something when he did.
Looked like it.
Yeah. But yeah, because his performance is so manic, man. It's just like, going through all this stuff. You don't know what kind of genius you're dealing with, that type of. Really love it. Like I said, it could go under best. It could go under some people's worst.
Yeah,
there's a lot of things that I will call it a favorite just because it's something that has really wrapped me up before.
That's awesome. I did catch the Seinfeld parody of it recently.
Yeah.
Where she goes to
Peterman.
get Jay Peterman has to approve her mink hat that she bought for George. And there's this kid in the side, and he's like, Magala.
Yeah.
And she's like, what did you say to him? He's like, oh, it's nonsense.
That was gibberish.
It was gibberish.
He even quotes that grocery clerk line from, right? Isn't there a grocery clerk line in Apocalypse Now?
Yeah, there is.
You're an errand boy, son on.
Something.
Peterman quotes that.
Yeah.
Well, I think if we did this in 5 years, the rate my life is going, for my favorite, I would answer Moana. Because the music of that movie is so fucking good.
It is.
It makes me believe the movie is even better than it is.
Mm-hmm.
I think the movie's good. I really enjoyed it. The songs, I'll watch that movie. Just I want to go back to that music.
Yeah.
But it's too new. And so I'm going to go with, amusingly enough, a surprise Dennis Hopper. Waterworld.
Yeah.
The worst movie anyone on this podcast will ever call their favorite anything.
And you could. So here's the funny part: you put it on your favorite. I've noticed that you did not put it under the underrated.
No, because I don't think it's underrated.
It is correctly rated.
It is appropriately rated as a piece of shit. I cannot endorse this as a good movie, but I think it's fun as hell. I think I told the story on the podcast. I went to see this opening night with a big group of friends in college, and we had read about what a disaster this production was. Of course, he fires Kevin Reynolds, and basically Costner finishes the movie himself. And so we were prepped. We were prepped for terrible, and boy, did it deliver. And I feel like most of the people in that movie know exactly what's going on. Costner's really the only one that may be taking it completely seriously. Hopper's certainly not taking this movie seriously.
He's at Super Mario Brothers level.
And this
of
is a
acting right
ridiculous movie, right? The polar ice caps have melted in the future and flooded, and now all the world is water.
Yeah.
And that has, logically, transformed dirt into the most expensive commodity. You buy shit with dirt or paper, because nobody has any paper. I love that guy. I like that rod. That's a good rod. How much for a half an hour with a woman? How much for the wee one? He's just creepy. Everything about this movie is bonkers. Costner pees in a thing early in the movie and turns it into drinking water.
Yep.
Hopper's villainous bad guy and his henchmen are on board the Exxon Valdez.
Yep.
And he even pays tribute to the captain at one point. They're looking for dry land, basically. There's a rumor that there's dry land.
It's not a myth. I've seen it.
There's a little girl with a tattoo. Because sometime in the past 7 years, somebody saw dry land and thought, you know what I really need to do is tattoo this on a toddler. Right? I mean, I realize you don't have paper, but
come here.
There are better ways to make a map than to use a little girl's skin who was probably too young to consent.
Later the model for Prison Break.
It's so much fucking fun in being bad.
Mm-hmm.
And I almost think the movie works better because Costner doesn't seem to realize how bad it is.
Mm-hmm.
If he was camping it up with everybody else, I don't know if I could take it.
I don't know if he could camp it up.
I don't know if he could either. But that stoic, like, he basically never smiles.
Yeah.
There's a very bad Santa relationship between him and the little girl. They grow to appreciate each other, and he saves her life. I am a sucker for a good high concept premise, and movie doesn't even have to deliver, and I will often enjoy it. Like In Time with Justin Timberlake, I have a really good time watching that movie, and it's just not good.
No, it's not.
I just like the idea so much.
Yeah.
I'm willing to let it play in my head. Anyway, so there you go. Waterworld. Don't watch it if you want a good movie, but if you want bonkers, bad movie, go watch that.
Yeah, Jeremy has said this is his favorite. He doesn't say you must go out and watch this.
Rated.
That's right.
Right.
Is that it had the Universal logo just flooded out.
It was a very cool effect.
Yeah,
like sometimes that can be gimmicky and sometimes I like it.
Mm-hmm.
And I liked that one. Of course, at that point I didn't realize, I thought the movie was going to be bad, but it opens with that Universal logo and then you see the flooding of the polar ice. But then there's, I think, some narration explaining everything. Yeah.
I do like it, like The Matrix with Warner Brothers did a nice one with it.
Yeah, they turned.
And I like it when they
green.
do Harry Potter, that kind of thing.
Yeah, I just think sometimes they go a little overboard. I can't think of a good example off the top of my head.
The Illumination stuff with all the minions.
Oh yeah, maybe.
Man, fuck those guys.
Okay, so for my underseen, and I don't know if anybody less than 30 has even seen this movie or even heard of this movie. It's White Squall.
Oh, yeah. I saw this in the theater.
Oh, really? So this was 96?
Who's in this? Isn't like Ethan Hawke
This
or
is, Balthazar Getty's in it.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so it's Jeff Bridges, Scott Wolf, Jeremy
Scott Wolf, that's what I was
Sisto,
thinking of.
and the other one, Ryan Phillippe.
Yeah.
Ah, yeah.
Yeah.
And I went to see this, I think, with my dad at the time. And again, boat, sea, like a bunch of teenagers, I'm on board because I was a teenager at the time.
Yeah, sure.
And it's like a prep boot camp for these kids to learn about, like, seafaring and sailing and things like that. It's basically like a boarding school over the summer. And so, it's really got a great dynamic between Jeff Bridges, the captain, and trying to whip these boys into shape. And then after a while, they run into this storm called the White Squall. It's so dangerous that they have to put this, into action, all their training. Now, it's not breaking any new ground. It's not, a terrific movie or anything like that. But I do think it's underseen. And I think when it comes to terms with, like, I'm not comparing it to Dead Poet Society, but that kind of demographic, coming together as boys, as your own kind of unit, I think it's a lot of fun. And it's got some drama to it. It's got some gravitas to it. It's got a lot of humor. And Jeff Bridges, man, holds that sucker down. It's a really good performance.
He has one of the biggest roll credits moments ever in that movie. Because a white squall is coming towards him, and the camera is like up in his face. White Squall.
Yes, very much, very much. It's good though. You should check it out. If it's a good Saturday Sunday afternoon movie.
And it's been since I saw it in the theater. I have never actually heard anybody be super complimentary of the movie before, but on the IMDb it's got a 6.6, so it's definitely got some following.
Yeah, it's fun.
I am going to go with Dead Calm.
Oh yeah, boy, we overlapped a lot this week.
Oh yeah,
we listed like 4 of the same movies on this thing. I didn't even see that you wrote that one down.
Yep.
Is this the mystery thriller?
Yes, this is okay. So this was 1989. Philip Noyce, who would later go on, Noyce, who would later do Patriot Games and The Clear and Present Danger, and he also did Rabbit Proof Fence and The Quiet American. He's done a lot of movies. But Dead Calm is just a perfect thriller. It's a perfect thriller. This couple, Nicole Kidman and Sam Neill, are on this like boat, and they run across this this guy who we think his ship's about to sink or whatever. Yeah. And it's Billy Zane. Weird Billy Zane casting, by the way.
Isn't every Billy Zane casting weird?
Kind of,
except for Zoolander.
Kind of, yeah. So they go and they basically save this guy, but of course he is, not a nice person and everything. And so a lot of this, involves like them trying to go back and forth between boats and stuff like that and everything. But it's really tight, really well done thriller. And this is like Nicole Kidman back in her like redhead freckle days and everything too, before she became like, this model of, whatever of looks and everything. I love this Nicole Kidman. It's like this like down to earth before Tom Cruise came along, Nicole Kidman, but yeah, it's really good, really well done thriller. Like if you got a movie that's super tense and everything, again, like you could watch, I mean, they're not the same in any way, but Dead Calm and Hunt for Red October, you're on the edge of your seat.
Yeah, absolutely.
Are they out on the water the whole time?
Mm-hmm.
I've seen this a long time ago. I remember really liking it.
Yeah, there's a lot of like just cool little things in there where they, that person's over there, but I'm over here, and now I have to, that type of thing.
Yeah,
so
nice little thriller. Good one.
Yep,
good one.
Did you leave All Is Lost for me?
Yes.
Oh. All Is Lost is my underseen.
Remember, were you watching this on a plane?
On a plane.
I still haven't seen it.
It's so good. You've seen it.
Oh, I love it.
There's almost no dialogue in this movie.
Yeah.
It's Robert Redford on a boat. The boat has issues, and it turns into a survival thing. I love when movies do this in small patches, where you give me silent, dialogue-free thing where a character's figuring something out. Mm-hmm. And he has like 5 or 6 different hurdles, maybe more, to overcome throughout the movie. And you basically are just watching him think about how to solve this problem. And when he does what he does, it makes perfect sense because the movie has allowed you to follow the same thought process through the way they show you everything. I watched it because I had simply read, this movie is great. Mm-hmm. And then when I watched it, I was like, whoa, that's better than great. That's fucking awesome. And it's just a small enough thing, and the premise it reminds me a lot of Locke, where you're going to spend an hour and a half with Tom Hardy in a car making phone calls, and people are like, right. So Robert Redford out on the water, not talking, trying to survive. No, it's fucking riveting all the way through, and definitely underseen for sure. I don't think it made a bunch of money. I think it might have got a couple nominations at some award show, but you go out and throw a rock, you're not going to hit anybody that's seen this movie.
He's so smart in this movie.
He is.
And I mean, I guess he's like a very wealthy guy.
Yeah.
And you could see by like his watch and the way that he does stuff, but also like a very accomplished seaman.
Yeah.
Right?
No secrets between sailors, Barrett.
But no, I mean, like you can tell that he can handle his shit, even though he's old.
Yeah.
And he acts old. Yeah. I mean, he does all of his own shit in this.
Yeah, he does.
And nothing is out of the realm. Nothing turns him into a superhero like Vin Diesel in, Fast and or the later Die Hards or anything like that.
Right.
It makes sense. Everything that he does are within his capabilities. And like you said, you follow along with that logic progress.
Yeah.
And it's cool to follow a smart person.
It is. I really, really recommend it. And Definitely underseen.
Mm-hmm. Good pick. I like that a lot.
Not underrated. I couldn't put it there because it got good reviews.
It definitely got good
This is
reviews.
how we're breaking down our category. I just want to make sure I clarify.
Yeah.
All right, hit me.
I'm trying to figure out which way I'm going to go here. I'll get laughed out of the room. Captain Ron.
I still haven't seen this, although I have you and some other person that we both know have both told me about Captain Ron, and I still haven't seen it yet.
Captain Ron has a 24% rating on Rotten
guarantee
Tomatoes.
you I will hate this movie.
Oh, you will hate it so hard.
It is, I believe it's 1990, somewhere around
92, somewhere around there.
Listen, it's not great, but it's Martin Short as the funny straight man, which I dig. I like when that whole cohort of Steve Martin, Martin Short, and Chevy Chase can play like the funny straight man. And because it allows Kurt Russell, who's Captain Ron, to run amok and be just crazy. It's kind of a role reversal. You'd think Kurt Russell is like the leading straight man and Martin Short being the bonkers guy. But he's great, man. Like he's this heavily traveled, captain, and Martin Short buys this crazy or rents this vessel, and they've got to get from one place to another, and they need to hire a captain. And so they bring in this very inappropriate, ostentatious Captain Ron, who's Kurt Russell. And it's fun. It is a fun movie. It's funny. It is very screwball early 90s, but it's better than 24% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Maybe by
I'm
like
saying it's
2%.
underrated. No, I'd give it a solid 48%.
Well, okay, that's more generous than I would give it.
Which, of course, it's an aggregate, but I would say I like this movie 48%.
All right.
On my underrated, I'm going to pick Lake Placid.
Oh, man,
right.
I fucking love this movie.
I do too, and to be honest, I haven't seen it since the theater.
Oh,
but I had a blast watching Lake Placid.
Oh yeah, how could you not?
It's so funny. I don't believe this movie ever takes itself seriously once. And this is another one of those rare Bill Pullman, like out of nowhere type of movies. You got Bridget Fonda in this. There's a great turn from Betty White in this.
Oh yeah.
Like, she's doing the foul-mouthed grandma bit, which we all know and everything. There's something about Betty White, though, doing it that's just different, and it's better for whatever reason. But I just remember her just coming out and just saying some of the most filthiest stuff, and I'm like, wow, Betty White. Like, I didn't know that you had that in you,
Well,
but
she was always set up. I mean, we grew up around the Golden Girls era of Betty White, and I don't know. I didn't watch Mary Tyler Moore Show all that much, so I don't know if she was a little bit more risque in those days. But, she was always set up as this kind of vacuous prude in Golden Girls. And so to have her make this turn makes it earn it more, I think.
Yeah. But, this is a giant crocodile movie. That's all it is.
From David E. Kelly.
Yeah, did he write this?
Yeah, David E. Kelly wrote this.
Crap.
Oh,
yeah,
that's
he wrote
awesome.
this, and it was directed by Steve Miner, who did a lot of these stupid ass horror movies back in the day. He did, I think he did. Was it Halloween H2O? Yeah, he did that. He did Halloween H2O the year before this.
Wow.
And he's done a few other stupid things, but anyway, this one was just fun, and it also makes you kind of wonder if maybe it was the Kelly script. Did Miner really know that this was like supposed to be campy? I mean, or is it the perfect match for him, or whatever? But
back and forth between Brendan Gleeson and Oliver Platt steals the whole movie for me, because Oliver Platt is this rich crocodile hunter. Basically, he wants to swim and lock eyes with this monster.
Yeah.
He doesn't want to hurt it, and you can't really stop him. And then Brendan Gleeson's like the local sheriff who's trying to keep peace and order, but he's basically Bad Santa. He's gruff and angry all the time, and they just constantly butt heads. And that's what makes that movie sing for me, I think. And of course, that line at the end, we trapped it with our chopper.
that was a thing too, though. Like, there's a point where this thing fucking grabs a helicopter out of midair.
Yeah.
It's one of the. Well, it's kind of Jaws. Was it Jaws 2 that did that? Where it wasn't the shark came out of the water. Or was it Jaws 3? I can't remember which one. one of those middle
Yeah.
terrible Jaws did that, where the shark came out and got the helicopter. The guy comes by in the helicopter. Hey, you need some saving out there? I might need to get you some help. And the fucking shark.
Man, if you can get camp right, it's a lot of fun. I remember when the first Sharknado came out on Sci-Fi, I guess, like it was this Twitter storm of just people like genuinely watching this and enjoying the camp and enjoying the crazy. And of course, they took it seriously, and now they're making it progressively more campy. But if you've got too much awareness in camp, I think you were saying this last episode, there's a ratio of like serious to not taking yourself seriously, because you have to make it believable but also ludicrous.
I've always said that the formula for making a movie like that is you write something that in your heart is the most serious, it's the most sincere type of thing in the world, and you have no idea that it is ridiculous. And then you go out and film that script not knowing that it's the most ridiculous thing in the world. So everything's played seriously, even though like the dialogue and the action is usually just pretty ridiculous. I think in Lake Placid, there's enough in here to say that they kind of went for this and succeeded, but it's still, you still gotta wonder, was there some sort of seriousness here? And it's still, and that's what we got or whatever. I don't know, but overall, I think this is just it's an hour and 20 minutes long. You can watch this, no problem.
Oh yeah, it's get in, get out, have a good time.
This might have been one of the shortest movies I've ever seen, like on a movie platter before.
Oh yeah,
one of the shortest, along with like Walking Tall, which was like a basically 4-reel movie with a fifth reel of credits, and a Goofy movie, which I think was like 70 something minutes long.
They made a few more of them though. Lake Placid's.
Oh yeah,
with I don't think any of the same actors, but I think there's 2 or 3, maybe even more, straight to like DVD or whatever.
Yeah,
didn't get it right the second time out.
Yep,
didn't get all the elements in place. All right, so my underrated, I'm going to go with The Perfect Storm.
Yeah,
which
so
is
great.
47% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Why is that?
I don't know, because now when the film came out and played in the theater, the water effects were fucking amazing. And I think it was a huge leap forward in what kind of ability they were able to have. I fell off there. But I don't think they aged very well. As I think water effects improved leaps and bounds even beyond that. So I've always felt like, I have never had any conversations about this, but I've always felt like people look down on what is now aged CGI on the water. I find it really compelling. I don't love it. I don't watch it frequently, but we got Clooney, Marky Mark, and John C. Reilly.
Yep.
And they're all great actors, and they are what sells it. And then of course you've got this perfect storm where 2 cells come together in such a way that basically they're all going to die, but they're not, because anyway, I don't want to ruin the movie for you. My point is, it's way better than 47%. I put it up in the mid 60s, maybe low 70s.
It's got a great story. I mean, everything
it's based
makes
on a
sense.
true story.
Yeah, exactly. Everything makes sense. He wants to push the boat to go out further so that they can get this haul of fish. And when they finally get to that hotbed of fish and they're just pulling it in, they can't get the nets in fast enough and everything. You see all the joy. There's all these like kind of, the nitpicks at each other throughout the whole journey, and then everybody comes together and smiling. And
you know what? That is very accurate too. If you've ever watched Deadliest Catch.
Oh yeah.
Have you ever seen that show?
No, I never watched it.
Okay, so the first few seasons I watched it regularly, and now I just catch a few episodes they're on like season 28 or some bullshit. But every episode is like that. There'll be a ship where everybody's fighting and everybody's pissed and they're tired and cranky, but as soon as they get a big pot of crab, they're all like high-fiving and singing and woo! And I think the camaraderie is genuine.
Yeah.
But I forgot about that from that movie. That's true to life, I think.
And that sets up the whole rationale for trying to outrun this storm or go through the middle of it, because they've got all this ice, and if they've come all this way, and if they don't go straight through, all of it's going to go to waste.
Yep.
So it makes sense.
Is this and I saw this movie back in the day, but I don't remember. Was there a lot of sort of financial troubles that they sort of go over in the beginning that drove them to do all the stuff that they do in this movie, or was this just is this portrayed as a regular,
No, I think it's portrayed as like their last best chance,
and
that they're on hard times. This is a fishing village that I think is on the downturn economically, and so, but basically the point is if they don't bring in a big load of fish, then they're probably going to lose their boat or something like that.
Yeah, because it's been overfished.
Yeah.
The area that they're normally going to, and everybody's fallen on hard times. And Clooney's character has heard about this spot, and they didn't even really think that they were going to, but so they go to their normal route and everything, and they're just not getting it. And they were like, well, we're out here. All right, there's a weather thing that's way off in the distance. I think we can make this run. And there's like a moment of decision where they're just like, fuck it, let's do it. And, that seals their fate.
Yeah.
But I agree, man. Mark Wahlberg is really, really good in this.
Yeah.
I think Clooney is terrific in this.
Yeah.
Everything works for me. I don't know why this is so.
Yeah, I don't either. I guess I need to watch it. I haven't seen it in probably 6 or 7 years, but I need to watch it again and see if I can figure it out.
I wanted to mention a few others, and these aren't necessarily on any particular list that I would put, but I wrote these down just in case we wanted to sort of throw them out there or whatever. But Ponyo, I put in my best list. Ponyo is a just magic Studio Ghibli movie. Hayao Miyazaki, who's a legend. So Ponyo is in there. I also put in the underrated, even though I'm not sure. It may be properly rated. Deep Blue Sea is a movie that I'll never forget laughing at that Samuel L. Jackson scene.
So great.
It's such a great scene. I wanted to mention Deliverance.
Yeah,
which it's a classic, but man, that's a tough movie to get through.
It's terrifying.
Yeah, it's terrifying. It's also, it's just I guess. From being from the South and everything, I get sort of defensive about this. Like every time somebody comes down to the South, you've got these rednecks who want to do shit to you and everything. Yeah. And I guess that's a common story.
Has that not been your experience in Nashville?
I've always lived here. I am that guy.
I see.
But Deliverance is probably going to make some people's lists out in the world. The River Wild is one.
Yeah.
That was on TV yesterday.
Yeah, IFC plays it a bunch.
Oh, do they really?
Yeah, I don't know if it was on IFC this time.
I think that's a lot. I would put that under underrated.
Oh, yeah.
Or underseen.
That's a fun-ass movie.
Yeah, Curtis Hanson did that movie.
Yeah, he's had a weird career.
Yeah. A movie I've mentioned a couple of times, and it's also like on a lot of people's big-time classic lists, is Aguirre, The Wrath of God. Werner Herzog movie back in the 70s. It's another survival on the river type of movie. But Klaus Kinski, who's like always known as this just absolutely impossible to work with, somehow worked with Werner Herzog several times, even though they hated each other. It's worth watching it just for how loony that guy is and everything. But it's a great survival story. Master and Commander.
I was just going to hold my hand up and throw that one out, so I'm glad you said it.
Yeah, that was a Peter Weir movie that I didn't like when I watched it. Now, I've heard a lot of people since say that they really enjoy this movie.
I did.
So,
I think it's one of the best naval adventure films ever.
Really?
I would probably put it under seen because I don't know too many people that have seen it. Russell Crowe's great in that, and Jarvis, fuck. I do it all the time.
Paul Bettany.
Paul Bettany.
That'd be awesome if Russell Crowe was like Jarvis, tell us where our next heading is.
I really like it. I would throw my weight behind it.
I remember watching it and going,
I didn't get it the first time.
Yeah, and I'll have to watch it again. Blue Crush is another movie that I hear a lot of people kind of put in there like, oh, I love that and everything.
Made a sequel to that one too.
Yes, they did.
Boy, that's a pretty awful movie though.
Oh, I'm not a fan.
Yeah,
Blue Crush?
Yeah,
Blue Crush. I watched it. I was like, Kate Bosworth's kind of cute.
Oh, she's gorgeous.
But I don't really like the movie.
No.
The Poseidon Adventure, was another. I haven't seen the original Poseidon Adventure. I saw the remake.
You haven't seen the original?
Good.
Yeah, the original's great.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
I love the original. Gene Hackman's in that.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And Ernest Borgnine.
Yeah.
And Shelley Winters.
It's got a great. Well, the fucking remake has Fergie in it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I've told you this before. My college buddies, Josh and Andrew, and I watched the Poseidon Adventure. And then one night we were in the radio studio where I worked, just goofing around. And we made up a song about the Poseidon Adventure where it's like, this is so embarrassing. Why did I even bring this up? But Josh is like, it's the song of the Poseidon Adventure. And then Andrew and I just started chiming in. We were basically just on hot mics recording, fucking around. Anyway, but we end up shouting out. That's how I knew all those names were in it, because Josh goes, with Gene Hackman, Ernest Borgnine, and Shelley Winters, too. Anyway,
it's funny. Like I've always, I think I've been subliminally turned away from Poseidon Adventure because in Swimming with Sharks, when Frank Whaley's talking to his buddies at the beginning of the movie, he's like, he tells the story about Shelley Winters, and it's something about Shelley Winters who's going for some sort of contract or get this role and being asked to audition, and apparently she keeps on putting out Oscars in front of the director and everything, and so like the friends are like, who's Shelley Winters? He's like, she's in A Place in the Sun. She's in all these great movies, and they're still like looking at him like, the Poseidon Adventure. And they're like, oh yeah. Another couple other ones that I thought of, The Abyss. James Cameron. That's one of his. I don't know. I've never been able to get into The Abyss.
Oh really? I like it a lot.
Yeah. I mean, that's especially for its time, another great special effect movie and everything.
it's no Sphere, but it's it's a little better than Leviathan.
Right, exactly. And Deep Star 6, and then 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea.
Oh yeah, classic.
There's obviously a million others that we haven't thought of, but these are the ones that come to mind for us. Go on to some Q&A.
Question. I got something to say. I want the truth.
I am listening.
All right, let's do it, baby.
Let's do it, baby. That's what I say to. Never mind.
Well, hey, speaking of which, what is the sexiest line ever spoken by a film character?
This is the fastest I have ever typed an answer down after reading the question. Fastest. Jennifer Lopez, you really wear that suit in Out of Sight up in the bar. Because that is the moment she completely admits that she's as into him as he is to her. That's where she breaks character and just can't help but compliment how fucking handsome he is. Yeah. And it's on after that. So I wrote that down instantly. I just find that entire scene incredibly sexy, and her character in it is incredibly sexy. And then I also remembered that line from this terrible movie, My Best Friend's Wedding, that was in the trailer with Julia Roberts way back when she's still, I think, pretty young. And she's like at a baseball game, and she's got some kind of tray, and she's like, I've got moves you've never seen before. and I remember many a boner from remembering that trailer. So anyway, those are my answers. Chris?
All right. Mine is Greta Scacchi in The Player. In The Player, Tim Robbins' character accidentally it's a kind of a weird scene. He either accidentally or in the middle of it realizes how far he's going to killing a guy. Yeah. And it just happens to be Greta Scacchi's husband or boyfriend in the movie. He's sort of racked with guilt about it, obviously. So later on in the movie, he goes and starts talking to her and everything, and discussing he gets intrigued by this gorgeous woman who's painting and doesn't seem to really care about movies and everything. So they start sort of hanging out with each other enough to the point that at some point she goes, why don't you put me in the hot springs and see if I melt? And the very next scene is probably one of the most intense sex scenes.
That's where they go out to the desert, right? To that resort?
Yeah. Without nudity that I have ever seen.
Oh, yeah. Nice. It's sweaty, too.
Yeah, it's super sweaty, very close up, and there's some sort of bongo drum soundtrack going on during it and everything.
That's the only way I have sex.
Yeah, exactly. Well, you have to, it's
Hang on, honey.
Yeah,
Press play on my CD player.
I don't know what the hell it is. Some sort of island type of music or something going on in there. I'll probably go and pop it in and, oh, that's pretty normal music. What do you know?
Or it'll be like a Guns N' Roses song or something like, how did I forget this was in here?
One that I would like to mention as far as is Sideways. When Virginia Madsen, and I don't remember how this whole quote goes, but I do remember her talking about wine, and she's basically talking about herself.
Yeah.
And she's like, and when you finally open it, it tastes so fucking good.
Yeah.
And it's like, and you see Paul Giamatti's face too after she says that, and he's like, "Oh yeah, I do know what you mean."
That's a good one.
So anyway,
I actually struggled with this a little bit because like it's hard to focus on a line. Besides, Out of Sight popped into my head too immediately. But when you think about that scene, you think about the scene. You don't necessarily think about the line.
Yeah.
You think about like the Stealing Beauty scene where she loses her virginity, or like Selma Hayek in From Dusk Till Dawn, you know. But there are a couple of ones that are really good. The whole scene between Clive Owen and Natalie Portman in Closer, where he's at the strip club.
Oh, yeah.
And it's this slow build because he's bought her services basically for in a private room for a while. And it's this repartee that's going back and forth, and it's very sexy and it's very cool. And eventually, you know, he says basically, you know, you're going to be mine at some point. And she says, "I'm not a whore, Larry." And he says, "I wouldn't pay." And it's just that he's got that like locked in look on his eyes, and eventually they do end up together. So that's a very sexy line. One of the movies you talk about underseen, I don't think a lot of people have seen the Wachowski siblings Bound.
No.
yeah.
It's a really, really cool like thriller and everything that just happens to involve a lesbian that kind of infiltrates this couple. And so it's Jennifer Tilly and Gina Gershon really at their peak sexiness. And man, it's a really enjoyable watch, but there's a lot of sexual tension between them. And Gina Gershon is kind of being, you know, seduced by Jennifer Tilly. And there's one part where she says, you know, do you say they're sitting at a bar? And she said, do I make you uncomfortable? And Gina Gershon like kind of nervously sips her bottle, and she's like, no. And Jennifer Tilly like licks her lips, and she's like, maybe I'm making you thirsty. And I'm like, no! Man, yeah, that's a really good movie.
It's funny, man. The Wachowskis get The Matrix after Bound. It's just it's so interesting to me.
Although it's almost, boy, I'm going to sound ignorant. It almost feels unfortunate that Bound is known most for the lesbian stuff, because it's a great little film.
Yes.
A great little caper, and I enjoyed it greatly. And I think that gets overshadowed sometimes because it is such a sexy movie.
It really is.
That's a good question, by the way, maybe that we could talk about at some point, where a movie is great, but somehow either because we're fucked up or because the movie fucked up, they put in, really with no intention of this, they put in a great sex scene or some other kind of scene that sort of just completely overshadows the movie that you
Now
watched.
you can see why I called Chinatown the incest movie.
yeah.
Right?
Exactly. Right.
Luckily, there is no sex scene in that one.
No, it's just, but you wouldn't want that
it
anyway.
overshadows it,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
Or the adultery movies.
Right.
Yes.
All right. What are some of the best movies that are, quote, based on true events? Now, this is an interesting example that the listener brought up. Mine would have to be Fargo because of how insane it is. Thanks, and keep up the good work. Thank you for that.
Right.
Now,
And Fargo, now, this was a famous thing with the Coen brothers. Well, now, I mean, maybe not famous, but when the movie came out and became a success, they came right out and said, this didn't actually happen.
Right.
But what we wanted people to this is type of stuff that does happen.
Yeah.
And we wanted people to go in the theater thinking, oh, this happened, and not sit there and think, oh, this is too far-fetched or whatever, because shit like that happens all the time.
Yeah.
People are stupid. They're out of their depth. They don't know what they're doing when they try to commit these capers, especially like William H. Macy does.
Yeah.
Anything. But yeah, I mean, we know what the basic question is here
Uh-huh.
and everything. And mine is I'm going to go with The Big Short.
Great.
I have a few actually. The Big Short is the one of recent memory that I love. I can pop it at any time. It's great. One that's right along that same type of fun and enjoyment is Catch Me If You Can.
Oh,
so
man,
great.
that was on a couple days ago, and I thought, well, I'll just watch up to this one scene.
You really can't
watch the whole goddamn movie.
Either one of those movies, you can't just start watching a little bit and then go, all right, I'm done, unless there's something really pressing.
Yeah.
Because anyone, you can pick them up any point and just, oh God, every scene is great.
Yeah.
You know, it's kind of funny, by the way, today, Elizabeth Banks was getting roasted. She's in Catch Me If You Can, was getting roasted because she said that Spielberg doesn't do any movies with a female lead. Now, she's not wrong, but she said he never has,
Right.
and Color Purple obviously did. But this is the problem I have with Twitter and things like that. You know what she meant.
Yep.
You know that it's true to a certain extent.
Well, what's funny is I saw the headline, Elizabeth Banks rips on Spielberg. So I clicked through it and I read the quote first. He's never made a movie with a female lead. And I immediately went, you know what, she's right. I started cycling through all these Spielberg movies that have male leads, and I realized, and that's her point, is that there's a huge disparity. I don't think that makes Spielberg a bad person. It just means that mathematically, you know, all but like 3 of his movies have male leads.
Yeah. and you know, I never blame a director for doing that, because they may not have the same kind of touch that they need to have a lead female actor or whatever. I mean, I think he did well with Jurassic Park. Laura Dern was essentially a main character in that. But yeah, it's one of those, to me, like, okay, yeah, you forgot about Color Purple. That's a bad mistake, but you know what she meant.
It's like whenever I said there's no gravity in space. You motherfuckers know what I meant, goddamn it.
Exactly.
Tony shouldn't be falling into that goddamn hole.
Yeah, you're always going to be explaining that one, buddy.
I know, but still, well, you know, you signed off on that script too.
I knew what you meant. Wait a minute, did I? I'm not sure. That was
No, you didn't. You were out of town.
That was during the time where
no, that's all on me.
No, that was during the time. I think I may have written a couple on that Avengers, but not like a lot or anything.
Still, you know what I meant.
Yeah.
God damn it.
Everybody knows what you meant. Everybody really knows what you meant on that. That's what we can't. That's the problem of the society we're in today.
Yep.
I'm on my soapbox.
Yeah, bring it.
You can't just say something general without somebody coming up with a kind of like a Cinemasins for life, right? Yeah. Like, you know, it's like you can't just say one thing that kind of, that's kind of a perfect thing.
Actually,
oh, wait a minute. Did you know that Spielberg actually did do one with a female? It was The Color Purple, if you don't recall, back in the 80s.
What's frustrating to me about this age we live in now, get off my lawn, is that you don't, no matter how articulate you are, you don't control the message you put out. Mm-hmm. And my best analogy for that is that Jennifer Lawrence article where she took complete blame for making less money than her co-stars and said, I need to be more assertive when I negotiate, yada, yada. And the only thing you heard was that she's $20 million actress whines about not making enough. That was the spin that Twitter and the media and everybody put on it. And then, you know, the only thing she can do is what? Put out another statement trying to clarify that, and then they're going to take whatever spin they want from that. So, I mean, it's like, even if she had said Spielberg's only had 3 movies with female leads and said the exact right thing, they would still have spun her message however they want.
Right, exactly.
So. Well, you mentioned coming in on movies and not being able to put them down. Social Network gets me like that.
Yeah.
And, well, from both of the ones that I'm going to talk about, like, obviously things were exaggerated and things were cinematically enhanced. But Social Network, man, it's just so gripping, you know? And the whole rise of Facebook with these characters that weave in and out with the Justin Timberlake character and the Eduardo character, it's just absolutely gripping to me. And the same could be said about Goodfellas.
Yeah.
I'm sure Henry Hill may not always be the most reliable narrator, just because half the time he's doing this, he's whacked out of his gourd, and the other half, he's a hyperbolic type of dude,
making himself look good in some way.
Yeah. But if you do listen to him, and he's since passed away, but if you ever did listen to him when he did like radio interviews and things like that, he really talks. Ray Liotta nailed him.
Oh yeah,
because he really talks like that, and it's this like just rapid fire type of this is what happened, and everything. And it makes for perfect cinema. So
good call.
Yeah.
My first one is The Happening.
You're right. Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Man, that sucked when the wind was killing everybody.
I think everyone remembers where they were when the plants started killing us.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
My first answer is a movie I may never watch again, and it's United 93.
Yeah.
And if you were a student of film and you wanted to play a fun game, you might watch that movie and then World Trade by Oliver Stone.
Mm-hmm.
Night and day.
Yeah.
Night and day. But United 93 it's very hard to watch because of the fact that this all actually did happen.
Mm-hmm.
At least
and
crash.
It's really close to what happened too.
Oh yeah.
This is based off of like the actual testimonies and everything.
Yeah, and text messages and voicemails and all. I mean, they pieced together most of it pretty well. It's fucking gripping.
Yep.
It's fucking gripping. It's so good. I think that he should be able to make whatever he wants, Paul Greengrass, forever.
Mm-hmm.
Because of how great that is. And I feel like it's a true testament to those people on that plane and what they did because of how realistic he plays the whole thing. He casts almost no names that you recognize or faces you would recognize. And it feels very real. And we've talked about it before, but that one, and then I was going to go with Argo because I just love me some Argo.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And the period, the era-specific period details in Argo really tickle me because this is just before I am aware of the world, right? And the costumes and the cars and everything looks kind of like it did in my fleeting memories of the late 70s as a 4 or 5-year-old kid. Anyway, and I like me some Affleck.
What a weird Ben Affleck movie, right? I mean, that's not like nothing he's done before or since. Right?
No, but what's interesting to me is how he kind of genre hops. He's only made 4 movies, really. I guess you would call 2 action. And they're actually both about like criminals, but one's just set like 100 years ago or whatever. And then you got this one. He's shown off so many different talents as a director. I can't wait. That's why I was so excited to see him do Batman, which he's not going to do now. But I can't wait to see his next thing because he's very accomplished at action. I just watched The Town again the other day. It was on TV.
Yeah,
it's
just
awesome. It's almost like he's made 20 movies when you watch that movie. And it just makes you wonder how long he's been paying attention as an actor behind the scenes to have that confidence. Anyway, I love me some Affleck.
Yep. Let's do one inside baseball thing because it's fun. The question is, when you guys are writing the script for Sins videos or even researching for Sins, do you make use of IMDb's goofs section?
Oh.
Goes on to define a goof as defined as IMDb is, quote, an unintentional error in the filmmaking process that in some way breaks the spell and takes us momentarily outside of the world created by the movie.
Back in the day, I used to really worry about missing that big thing that everybody knows in a movie.
Like the stormtrooper hitting his head in Star Wars.
Right, stuff like that. So we started this in 2012, and I only really started really going deep into these things in 2013 because it was December of 2012 when we came out with our first videos. So in 2013, like I remember I would write the stuff and then I would go to that goose page and I'd be like, is there anything big that I missed here? Now, you're sitting there reading this goose page, which by the way, that's that shit right there. You think, I mean, you hate, if you know people who hate us, imagine just listing all the shit that's in the goose. Like we're talking about some stuff that really doesn't matter.
Those are the people we get accused of being.
Right.
The people who take it too seriously and
well,
go
I
too
remember seeing a comment in YouTube, one of our videos said something like, "Oh, I see how they do this. They just go to the IMDb goose page and they just write down their script from that." And I was like, okay, did you go see the Goofs page for this particular movie? Because no, we fucking didn't. We're talking about Goofs where it's like they're using such and such blah, blah, blah submachine gun here that wasn't invented until the following year. And like, it's stuff like that.
This car in the background is blue, but Toyota never made a blue model of that car.
It's stuff like that. So like a lot of times, early on I would go and I'd look at it, and yes, I would put something, write it away. I would go back to the movie and watch it and just watch that part and be like, okay, what would we say about this? And then it was very short lived, 2 months maybe that I did that. And then afterwards it's just all been like, you know what? I don't really care whether or not we get every single last thing, even the big stuff, because this is our voice. This is what we're doing. This is not the Goofs page of IMDb.
Right.
So
which is not funny.
Right. It's not funny. So in the end, the answer is no, but in the past, yes, like a couple of months I used to look at it. And not every time did I get anything. I mean, like a lot of times you'd look at it and like, oh, I didn't notice that.
Yeah.
Oh, so the guy's shirt is unbuttoned and then it's buttoned. I gloss my eyes all right over those. Like those don't matter to me like a lot unless they're like super obvious. Like somebody has their shirt completely wide open and then it's like closed in the next scene or whatever. But yeah, anyway.
Well, I mean, it's not funny. It's not funny to point out that a shirt is unbuttoned and then it's buttoned again.
Right.
But
I could see the context
entertaining?
of it being funny if it was parody.
If you make it
like us. Right?
If you make it your own thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Where something has happened that the movie didn't explain and you make your own explanation out of it, it can be funny. But just saying, oh, in this scene, we have done those.
Sure.
In this scene, the shirt is unbuttoned and then it's buttoned in the next one. That we've done that, but I think over time we started going, you know what? We don't need to do those.
Not as much. Like you said, it's got to be kind of glaring, kind of obvious.
Yeah.
All right, I have a question. Good. So I constantly find myself going back to watching films that I didn't used to think were that amazing, but after being offered a different perspective on how to watch the film, I found myself loving or having a better appreciation of it. The example that they give is Iron Man 3, which he originally hated.
I would love to hear this explanation.
I would too, purely because of the Mandarin twist. However, I went back to it after I heard a friend of mine talk about why they believe the twist is brilliant and found myself really liking it. So what films do you originally disliked but found to be much better when offered a different perspective?
I'm going to tell you that I'm not going to answer this question the way it was intended. I don't know of too many that I just disliked and then read something about it and then liked it better. Most of the movies that I read stuff about are stuff that I liked and have a greater appreciation for it afterwards. And that one is Inception. Watching Inception on the surface and you get your own little ideas about everything is good enough. But then I was pointed towards this guy, Kyle Johnson, who did a video on YouTube. It's about a 30 to 40 minute thing where he's in a classroom going through all the different themes and what certain things might mean and all this other stuff. And it really gave me a greater appreciation for Inception. Like, it started making me think, oh yeah, I never really thought about that before, even though you thought about everything at that point. Explanations about like why is the corridor that DiCaprio's running through start getting smaller as he goes through it, and all this other type of stuff. Like we think that's the real life because he's going to interview Hardy and everything, but there's a lot of things in that scene, like Tom Hardy, like during the gambling, he doesn't really do anything, but he comes back with tons of chips. And then like during that whole chase scene in that city when DiCaprio's running and that corridor starts getting smaller, that's a lot of evidence pointing to the fact that he might be in a dream world there. And it's something that, we never really, we sit there and if you take it at face value, we think he's in the real world because that's what he's here to do, is to get Hardy on the team and everything. And then you start thinking about stuff like that.
Yeah. Well, it's even crazier when the guy that hired him pulls up right there. It's
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
oh,
yeah.
hey, you need a lift? Here's a car. I'll rescue you from those two guys chasing you.
I mean, the movie has always done this thing where you sit there and wonder, was he in the dream world? Was this was this Inception like a whole Inception for him more than it was for to get this, guy, Cillian Murphy, to, learn this shit about his business or whatever. It's like, oh, well, maybe it's for DiCaprio because he's so far down into this world. We're trying to reach him.
Yeah.
We're trying to save him and everything. So that's a lot of the stuff that sort of builds onto that and everything. He also touches on one thing, and I don't think he goes into great detail about it, but the one thing that always upset me about our video that we did was so many people were saying that DiCaprio's ring was his totem.
Yeah.
Where it's like, okay, I like that explanation, but why does he keep spinning the fucking top?
Yeah.
And he's ready to blow his brains out if it doesn't work.
Yeah.
If that's the case. And I mean, maybe it's a sort of a clue as to the fact that he's so far gone that he still thinks that, Mal's totem is his or that he can use it that way or something like that. But he never really does anything with his fingers where he's like feels that ring or anything like that, and you would think that'd be the first thing you'd go to. That was one of that Kyle Johnson guy does address it briefly. He's like, oh yeah, there's some people who think that might be his totem, and then he moves on. He moves on, which I don't agree with that at all. But that's a movie that I like better after hearing this stuff.
Nice. Mine is not a movie. It's a TV show, and it's The Simpsons.
Nice.
Because The Simpsons launched when I was in high school. Now, not a show based on even just its previews that my parents were likely to let me watch. So my exposure is the commercials I see for it, and then all those goddamn Don't Have a Cow Man, Eat My Shorts t-shirts that I saw in high school. And I feel like Fox was marketing a different show than what the creators of The Simpsons were actually making. And for whatever reason, they started to move away from having those moments of Bart kind of like, because Bart is not the focus. If you watch the show's as much about Homer as anybody else. And it's a satire about American life. And I didn't have any idea because of what I was seeing on commercials and shirts. I just thought it was crude. I just thought it was a crude, hey man, I'm a kid, I don't like authority. So then I get to college and I'm rooming with this guy, Brian, who's a Simpsons fanatic and also the guy that giggles hysterically and contagiously. And he would just constantly play Simpsons. Anyway, and of course now I love it. But, because of the environment in which I was exposed to it first, and then second, I had those two completely different reactions. I didn't have any interest in The Simpsons until people I respected their opinions started saying, oh, no, this show's really funny. And then you start showing me the hockey episode and the softball episode. And I'm like, this show's not about Bart being a brat. God damn it.
It's what their marketing's about.
Yeah.
Yeah, they... I have stopped watching The Simpsons over the last 3 seasons, but I stayed in there for a really long time. I've watched it since the first season, but I never knew about it on the Tracy Ullman show or anything like that until later on. But yeah, it's an interesting thing to look at the history of The Simpsons. The first couple of seasons, obviously the animation's not very good. But there's some charm to some of those first couple of seasons. They were really trying to make something cinematic a lot of times in their animation, even though the actual drawing and everything wasn't great and everything. But the first 5 or 6 seasons of The Simpsons, I'll put that up against any series of all time. I don't care what you like. The Simpsons' first 6 seasons are fantastic.
They are.
And then there's still some good episodes after that, but that's the goal.
Naked and Afraid.
Yeah, okay. The Simpsons is better.
First 5 seasons of Naked and Afraid.
The Simpsons is better than those first 5 seasons.
If they have had 5 seasons of.
I don't know. I'm constantly surprised because what I'll do is I'm such a loser. I'll go to TV Guide and I'll click on the link that says what's new tonight to find out what episodes of shows
more like what's new tonight.
Because I don't want to watch a rerun, right? And every time I do that, I'm like, that show's been on for 7 seasons? What the fuck? I always see an example like that where I had no idea. Like America's Next Top Model, I guess it's coming back. It'll be like its 20-something season.
Jeez.
Whatever. Wow.
And you just don't think about that.
No.
I
have a recent example, and it was from Chris, actually. So in Get Out, It's a wonderful movie. I loved it the first time I watched it again recently. And Chris had written something that got my attention that I didn't think about before, and it was the relationship between the main character and his best friend, and how their paths kind of mirror each other. Chris, the character, and Rod, his friend, in different time periods. Chris when he was a kid, and then Rod when he's an adult. He's treating Chris as Chris did his mother, and he's trying to make sure that he gets him back. And never really thought about it like that. There's a million different ways that you can think about Get Out in terms of racial satire, in terms of, you know, the racial environment that we're in terms of humor, in terms of horror. But that was something that I hadn't thought about, and that just added another layer to what's a brilliant film. So
I got to tell you, I have never been more lost narrating a script for a movie I haven't watched than that one. I know I say this a lot, but that was the worst. I think it's even on the audio track. I go, I am so fucking lost right now because I didn't know who anyone was. But
yeah, it was something that, you know, the thing that you're bringing up is something that I noticed on this second viewing. Was because they made a big deal about, you know, they make a big deal about him and when his mom dies and everything. And then, there's a scene later where Rod is basically doing the exact same things that Chris was doing back then. Yeah. And everything. And I was like, that's such a nice touch. And I had never heard anybody talk about it before. Now,
I had neither.
Now, it could be somewhere out there on the internet that somebody brought this up and everything. But I was really happy with finding that. So
very cool.
All right. That'll do it for the SinCast this week. Please keep going to SoundCloud and giving us your thoughts.
Yeah, a lot of thoughts. A lot of agreement. A lot of conversation between listeners. Keep it up, man. We love it. We love hearing from you.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'll do it for this week. Chris Atkins and Jeremy Scott and Barrett Sher. We'll see you next time.
Thanks for listening. Comment on our episodes on our SoundCloud page. Check us out on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, and Reddit. And be sure to visit Cinemasins.com.
So today on the TV in the background, because I didn't change the channel after I turned it on, was D2, The Mighty Ducks, the sequel. This movie is so preposterous that I fell in love with it. Like, there's a whole generation, and I think they're behind me, of kids that grew up, and they adore the Mighty Ducks movies. Like, they're beloved. I haven't seen the second one, maybe ever. Have you ever seen it?
Never seen any of them.
Okay, so...
Really?
The second one, he's like the coach's approach to coach the Junior Goodwill Games Team USA team because he did such a good job with the Mighty Ducks in the first movie. And so it cuts immediately to him outside. Josh, what's his name from Dawson's Creek? Joshua Jackson. He's one of the stars of these movies.
Pacey.
Yeah, and he goes, hey, you want to play some hockey? And then it cuts to Joshua Jackson in his Mighty Ducks jersey rollerblading around the city. And he's picking up all of his Mighty Ducks teammates. And like every time it cuts, there's a new one with them skating by. And they're like stealing old man's hats and like knocking over bikes and shit, hooting and ducking all through town. Because apparently they all live in the same fucking city. Right? And it's like New York, or it's a ginormous city. It comes into play later. This game's just ridiculous because the main conflict is that Gordon lets his celebrity as the coach of this team go to his head. That's Emilio Estevez. Gordon is the coach. Sorry. If you haven't seen the movie, talking in character names is not going to help you. So he's letting celebrity go to his head at the Junior Goodwill Games. How much celebrity is there?
Yeah.
Right? Like, anyway, and then he goes on a date with this woman from the Iceland delegation, because Iceland is the big enemy team in this tournament. And I don't even know if they play hockey in Iceland for real, but they certainly don't play it enough to have like the best team in the world at the junior level. And that's kind of like a mini... 1980s Miracle on Ice kind of thing where they set them up as the villains and the other coach is mean and all that shit. But anyway, Gordon goes on a date with this woman, walking down the street, talking. They're not flirting, holding hands or anything. They're just walking. And two of his own players see him and they get pissed because she's from Iceland.
Oh.
Let's also not forget 2 of his own players just bumped into him randomly in New York fucking City. Anyway, shortly before I turned it off, they just lost 12-1 to Iceland. And they had the day off from practice because he'd been working them too hard. What do? They go out to this field and start working out and doing calisthenics.
Yeah.
And somebody asks, why are we doing this? We have the day off. And they're like, we have a game tonight. We got to be ready. Remember that. They have a game tonight.
Mm-hmm.
Then this inner city kid starts taunting them from outside the fence about how terrible their Team USA spirit is and my boys could take you. Then they go play against an entirely black inner city rollerblade hockey team.
Wow.
That schools them and teaches them how to play real gritty hockey. And one of the guys has a shot called the knuckle puck. And when he shoots it, it behaves like a knuckleball. I kid you not. And they get bruised and beat up on the fence. They have a game tonight.
Oh, my God.
Anyway, that's when I had to turn it off and come down here. But I think I'm going to watch the rest of it when I get home, just because it happens sometimes where a movie just beats you over the head with preposterousness, and you just... It's like sudden death when Jean-Claude's playing goal. At some point, I just give in, and I'm like, okay, you got me. I love this movie. Anyway.
The amount of time it takes to be great in a sports movie is always crazy small. Like, it's just funny to me. Like, it's like their competition is next week, and then but with a montage, suddenly they're experts. Or with one player, like Bad News Bears, they get Jackie Earl Haley, and they're suddenly awesome because one guy goes on their team and everything. I always talk about this with The Natural too. Like, there's no telling how much losing the New York Knights have done before Roy Hobbs even joins the team. And then he joins them and they don't play him for like a whole month or something like that. And then he finally gets a chance. And I guess they go on like this, like they win 40 in a row or something because they would have had to get in the position that they did. But then there's a point where he like starts dating Nemo and he's like, he's like, not doing well and they're losing all the time and all that. So they're losing even more.
Yeah, that's crazy. Nobody did the
man.
math on that season, did
Yeah,
they?
exactly.